The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Y'all ready for this?
And now, coming to you live from MainEventMadness.com and brought to you by Spreaker, it's Main Event Madness. Our wrestling, your sports, simply madness. And on that note, here's your hosts, Al Merriman and John Curry.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Alfonso Merriman with my co-host, partner in crime, John Curry, and our special guest.
Oh, you can say
it's a rarity that it happens, but Mr. Wayne Daly's on our show today as well. How's everybody going today?
Well, besides the fact that I sound like my head's a mix of a bowling ball and a cinder block, this is why we weren't here last week, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize, but we have an awesome interview with a sports reporter from the Miami Herald, Mr. Jim Varsallone. Al and him will be talking in a little bit. So it's been about 2.5 weeks since we've been on the air. Our last interview, or last time we were on the air, was with former WWE diva Kia Stevens. You may have known her as Karma in WWE, Awesome Kong in TNA. But that was a good interview. Really good job Al did with that one. But Al, I missed you. I'm not gonna lie. I missed you. I missed coming out here and getting yelled at.
Well, I didn't miss you as much, but it's okay. I'll play. No, I got the itch, and this is a strange episode to say the least. Not only that, we got Daly, and Mr. Daly, are you there?
Reunited and it feels so good.
I love it. We got him singing out the first strip. I love it. We're going to say that audio, and I'll use it on future episodes when he's not there. But And if you guys don't know, it's Mr. Wayne Daly of Wrestling-News.net. We always mention him on the show, so it's great to have him live. This is a weird episode, not only because of Daly, but yes, as John was saying, we haven't been here for 2.5 weeks. I've had personal issues, if you guys see my Facebook, and John's been dealing with a cold that just has been whooping his ass, and I guess we could use the word ass now because Monday Night Raw uses it freely, so we'll go ahead and use that terminology. It's not a problem. But it's going to be a quick kind of show. It's WWE Hell in a Cell this Sunday. We're going to review it, dissect it, analyze it, and then this interview with Jim Varsallone. Let me tell you, and I say it at the beginning of the interview with them, it's kind of like 4 or 5 years in the making because of the old days in FOW. We attempted to have him, and we couldn't have him. But it's an awesome interview. We talk about WWE, NXT, his interviews with Kevin Steen, with Bray Wyatt. It's just a bunch of topics. We talk about the Miami Dolphins, the Green Bay Packers, the Cavaliers, the Heat. We dissect so many different topics, and it's an awesome interview. At least for me, it was fascinating. And he's one of the senior sports editors at the Miami Herald. So it's a great honor to have him, and I hope you guys really enjoy the interview later on the show.
Hey, by the way,
go ahead.
Do you know what today is?
Hump Day!
Oh, that's right, folks.
That's right, Al. It's Al's favorite day of the week, folks. Sorry, I got a little static there. I got a little close to the mic. But nonetheless, it is Al's favorite day of the week. It is
Hump Day!
That's right, folks. All right, so we're going to review the WWE Hell in a Cell 2014 card.
$9.99.
That's right. It's on the WWE Network, all for the low cost of
$9.99.
I could have queued that up if I wanted to.
And I'll tell you,
Only an undisclosed amount.
That's right.
$9.99.
All right, so I want to start off by saying this. The month of October for Monday Night Raw, the build to this pay-per-view has been one hell of a roller coaster. I mean, we started off the month of Monday Night Raw with some crappy episodes. And I think Wayne could attest to that, and I believe John can as well. It was horrendous. From the Captain Leonota segments, it was really bad at the beginning. But, man, these last couple of weeks, if you love the WWE product, they've been putting on some great episodes, especially this week's Monday Night Raw. And I think Wayne can say the same thing, and John. I mean, you both agree, correct?
I saw up until just before Ziggler and Cesaro. I ended up falling asleep because, like you said, I've been dealing with a wicked cold that's been doing nothing but kicking my ass for over a week now.
Wayne, would you agree with that?
Yeah, the moment I sealed promoting this Sunday's Hell in a Cell for me was actually the end of the Raw when Seth Rollins curb stomped Randy Orton. That's going to open up a hell of a lot of possibilities.
And what about Monday Night Raw, guys? When Mick Foley came out, they did it to us twice this month. The Rock was a huge surprise, and after all the smack Mick Foley has talked about WWE on Facebook and Twitter and knocking them out,
and all the rumors,
what a surprise Mick Foley was on Monday Night Raw, and what a hell of a pro. This is what this pay-per-view needed. Was one of the pioneers of the Hell in a Cell match, Mick Foley. I mean, what a great interaction between all three men, I felt.
Well, I mean,
return is that
go ahead.
His return was not actually expected by his daughter.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't believe it. Even his daughter was like, "Man, you son of a gun, you told me you were in Los Angeles." And where was Monday Night Raw? It was Kansas City, right?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. So talk about keeping a secret that his own daughter, who's training to become a wrestler or a woman's competitor, didn't even know the father was going to be on the show. She even extended saying that she got goosebumps and it was awesome to see it. And it was. I think that it was an awesome segment. And after this slow build to this pay-per-view, the card is solid. There's a lot of matches that I am intrigued about. And I don't know if you guys know, we'll get into the Randy Orton, John Cena. This is going to be their 10th pay-per-view main event match as they've been in the company. And it's actually a rubber match. I don't know if you guys know that.
It's a
so they each have 3 wins between the both of them, and they each have a disqualification win between the both of them. So apparently this is their rubber match. Or this is their 9th main event. I don't know if I'm getting that right. Between both men. They've been in other situations, but one-on-one, it's a rubber match at a pay-per-view. So let's get started, guys. I think we should start from the bottom of the card and kind of work our way up.
So what would you consider as the bottom of the card? Would that be the tag team title match? No, Wayne.
You could work from the 2 out of 3 falls match.
So, that's
a spoiler alert, guys. A 2 out of 3 falls match. If you guys haven't heard, you can mute your little.
This is a spoiler alert.
3 matches not official until Friday night SmackDown, but it is a spoiler alert right there.
This is a spoiler alert.
Bing, 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 bing. You got to do it. You're gonna have to start putting these audio clips together. I know you've been sick, but we'll give you a pass. So if you on SmackDown last night's tapings, Dolph Ziggler and Cesaro had a match for the Intercontinental Championship. Everyone said who was attendance that it was an awesome match. And after the match, Ziggler did end up beating Cesaro, but after the match or later on in the night, I'm not sure when it happened, Cesaro grabbed the microphone and challenged Ziggler to a 2 out of 3 falls match for the Intercontinental Championship. This, by all means, is not the bottom of the card. Or at least this is one of the matches that I am totally looking forward to. It's going to be awesome. Ziggler Cesaro's been putting on some great matches for free on TV, and I look forward to this 2 out of 3 falls match. I think we should start off. It's always tricky having the 3-man crew, so we'll go John, then Wayne, and we'll flip it around. So, John, what is your take on the spoiler alert match here?
Well, see, I'm a little intrigued because Cesaro's been in the gutter for the last, 6 months almost since, WrestleMania 6 months ago. And people have been wondering, when is he going to start getting pushed? When's he going to start getting pushed? When's he going to start getting pushed? And it's just, I'm wondering if this is going to be the start of it or if this is just going to be another blow-off feud, oh, well, Cesaro's just there to make Ziggler look better, and then he's going to go off into the sunset and go do something else. Or if this is going to be Cesaro's chance to finally get a mid-level championship and start showing again what he can do. So, yeah, this one definitely intrigues me. Not the most, but definitely close to it on this pay-per-view.
And what about yourself, Wayne?
Well, I think if they really want to do something with Ziggler, they got to put the strap on Cesaro. Because everyone, no matter what match you watch on what episode of Raw, SmackDown, main event, people are always like, "We want Ziggler."
So you think that at this point, you think that it's time for that title change to happen?
I think it's time for the title change to happen and for Ziggler to move up the card.
And that's what I get scared. I agree with that sentiment, but I don't know if the WWE is at that point or management that they'll do that to him. My fear is that he'll lose the title, and I believe Cesaro, where this feud has been going, it makes sense that Cesaro wins the title. But I'm scared for Dolph Ziggler. I don't know what happens to Ziggler at that point. I would like to see him elevated, but right now, the main event picture, I don't know where they will fit him, the way the stories have been going.
Well, let me ask you guys.
So what would happen to Ziggler?
Could you guys see a Dolph Ziggler heel turn coming? Because I was talking to a buddy of mine about this the other day. After this pay-per-view, the Cena-Orton match is a number one contendership match for the World Heavyweight title, but they're saying it's the blow-off to Ambrose and Rollins and the blow-off to Cena and Orton. And if the ending of Raw is any indication, it's kind of going to be Orton and Rollins going forward here. And if Cena goes on to face Brock Lesnar, that kind of leaves Dean Ambrose without a dance partner. Could you see maybe Dolph Ziggler turn heel, go after Dean Ambrose?
I think it's going to result in Ambrose and Cena until Royal Rumble. That's personal opinion.
I don't see Ziggler. I just don't see that happening towards where he starts facing Ambrose and being a heel. I just don't see it. I really don't see it. And I don't know if you guys kind of noticed the way wrestling is kind of going these days. A lot of times they're not. I don't think they're forcing those changes as much as they used to. It's not like TNA wrestling where one week Bully Ray was a face and the next week he's a heel and it's forced on us. They kind of let things happen a lot natural now. Although with Seth Rollins, it wasn't. I just feel like it's a little bit different. I don't see Ziggler changing to a heel out of nowhere for no reason.
I'd actually like to see Ziggler take on Rusev next.
I still stand behind my theory that Kurt Angle will surprise me on Monday Night Raw this week after Rusev defeats Big Show and save us all from Rusev and the Russian.
If anything, I could see being Sheamus next. And Rusev
I would love to see Sheamus and Rusev right there. That would be awesome.
I really don't think Kurt Angle will come in, at least not yet.
What if the person is not American?
But it's the United States Championship.
Has something for Rusev. What if he's got some bad news?
I'd be perfectly fine with that. But I just don't see the Rusev story going much further without him as much as he's trying to make himself out to be better than the United States, the fact that he wouldn't hold a championship that's based on the United States, I'd almost be disappointed.
I think it should open to Rusev versus the world, not just the United States. Make him that hated.
Yeah, but wouldn't that get heat on him if he was he was Russian and he was the United States champion and he can gloat about how much better he is because he's holding our championship?
Then wouldn't it be better for him to hold Intercontinental? He's going against the world.
But he's not going against the world. He's going against the United States.
Yeah, he's going more against. I think that it would bring a lot more heat if he were U.S. champion. Let me tell you, I'm very intrigued of what we kind of mentioned, and we haven't looked at it too much, but right now, Rusev has faced all these Americans, and it would be interesting to see him feud next with Sheamus, And then after that, possibly with the return of Wade Barrett, he's slated to return next month, which was reported exclusively on Wrestling-News.net, that he's reported to come back next month. Wade Barrett. And then now you have Rusev saying, not only do I beat you damn Americans, but I beat everybody from around the world. I don't know. I think it would be very intriguing to see that. Rusev right now, his character, doesn't necessarily need a championship belt. He's drawing in so much heat that it would add to it if he became a United States champion, but I don't necessarily think it's a necessity at this point. But to see him after Big Show, face a guy like Sheamus and then maybe a returning Wade Barrett, it'll change the aspect of it's always against America. You know, maybe it could change up the storyline. Because how long can we see Rusev with the damn, talking smack about the Americans and all that, Right? Soon they're going to the United Kingdom. I don't know, maybe they could play off of where he's at and continue the storyline from a different aspect using different countries. I think it'll be interesting to see if they're able to pull it off. That being said, I want to take our picks and see who does well. I'm going to note these down. For Cesaro Ziggler, I'm saying Cesaro's winning this match. Wayne, you're saying the same thing, correct?
Yeah, I'm going for Cesaro as well.
All right, and Mr. Curry?
I got to say Dolph Ziggler.
All right, so he's going to be the heel of the show as usual. So, John...
Why am I heel of the show if I'm rooting for the babyface? And wouldn't you guys be the heel if you guys are choosing the heel?
I'm sorry?
I said, wouldn't you guys be the heel since you guys are choosing the heel and I'm the babyface because I picked the babyface in the match?
You got to understand something about this show, John. No matter what happens, you're always going to be the heel. Even if you pick the babyface.
Well, then shut up and let's move on to the next match.
Alright, so here's one of my favorite tag teams, and a lot of people don't like them. There's going to be a huge tag team match for the WWE Tag Team Championship belts, and we're going to see my favorite tag team, the Gold and Stardust, who are currently the title holders at KC Beloved Underneath the Rock, versus, not literally the Rock, you perverts, versus the Usos.
When I say Oos, y'all say oh, Oos. No?
No.
You guys suck.
I can see it happening, guys. I can see Star and Goldust dropping the titles back to the Usos, because let me just tell you this. I'm kind of disappointed with the tag team division. They were going so strong there for a while, and I feel like they remember them, but then they don't, and they remember them again. I don't know what's going on with it. As usual, these four men will put on a pretty decent match, especially if they're given the time. There's a lot of matches on this card. There's 8 matches thus far. I personally, I'm not. It's not that I don't want to see the match. I think there's better matches on the card, and it doesn't matter to me who wins the belt. I don't think it does anything for me. Whoever wins this match they win it and they call it a day. I'm not excited either way. Let's go with Dwayne this time. What is your thoughts?
Dwayne?
Dwayne?
I'm going for Goldust and Stardust to retain.
Alright, and John, you got any input?
I want to see the Usos win, but that's only because I want to see the Ascension come up and debut and take the titles from the Usos. And I really want to see the Goldust and Stardust feud with each other begin sooner rather than later.
Well, I would like that to wait to WrestleMania so they could have their moment at Mania. If that were to happen, I would like to see that happen for a while. That would be intriguing to me, just so, Dustin Runnels and Cody Rhodes, they could have their day in spotlight as brothers, and it could work out great. They could put on a good showing at the pay-per-view. But, alright, so that's your take. It would be interesting to see when the Ascension does get called up. I feel like it's never going to happen. We've been waiting for so damn long. And I'm looking forward to that happening. And I think that would be a little bit more intriguing to see a feud with the Ascension and the Usos for the tag team title belts. But if I got to take a pick here, I'm going to go with Gold as the Stardust just to go with them. But again, for me, it's up in the air, and I don't really care. Now, let's go on to the next match, which I call this. This is when we're watching the pay-per-view, guys, and Wayne, John, and I are sitting there probably on Skype, and then out of nowhere, John disappears for the next 10 minutes because it's a Divas Championship match with his favorite girls, AJ Lee and Paige. I'm just calling you out, John. All right, so here's a Divas match for the championship belt. We're getting it again, Lee versus Paige, and I feel somehow Alicia Fox is going to get involved with this one. John, what's your take on this match?
I don't really care who wins. It's good to see them both at the same time. No, I'm only saying that because you made your comment.
Bastard.
AJ and Paige have been playing hot potato with the fuck. Oh, whoops. With the I didn't say it. With the Divas Championship. So I'm interested to see if they keep that trend going or if AJ is going to start getting a little bit more dominant here in the feud, and then she starts to maybe distance herself a little bit from Paige, and maybe Alicia Fox goes after AJ next. I don't know, but like you mentioned, I could definitely see Alicia Fox getting in the match.
Yeah, what I kind of feel seeing is Fox screwing Paige out of the title. That's what I think is happening, and AJ Lee's going to retain. Wayne, what is your input?
Yeah. Basically, just seen this too many times. I'm actually kind of sick of the feud at this stage.
Man, it's getting old. I mean, all right, we're all sick of it. I think John is not because. What did you take?
The one thing I can see though, and this is to stop the reports, I can actually see Paige taking the title because she's after being announced to Total Divas, and that's what they're going to do to bring the series back. That's something I can actually see happening at Sunday. Because reports come out, and Stephanie McMahon tried to downplay the reports as well.
So what exactly did Stephanie McMahon say? She said that if you're on Total Divas, you can be champion? Or you cannot? What did she downplay?
She downplayed that exactly that if you're on Total Divas, you can't be champion. That was meant to be an edict by Vince. But she said that's not the case.
Just because that alone, because if Stephanie McMahon says something and then everybody's freaked. I don't know if you've seen the feeds on Facebook and Twitter. When this news came out that Paige was on there, everybody said, no, I don't want that. I want Paige to be champion. A lot of people were saying that. So maybe as a swerve, I could probably see that happening where Paige does end up holding the belt and they show that story of her becoming champion on Total Divas, and will give a good spark to the ratings. I mean, I would want to see kind of her backstage becoming the champion, and that dynamic has never been shown on Total Divas, of one of the girls being the champion. So, and we'll bring more to the show. It's hard for me to watch that show. I know we get off topic here a little bit, but it's just seeing how scripted it is. It kills me, but I still watch it because it's
just something that actually breaks you as well with Total Divas. What I got told actually last night was that with Paige and Alicia Fox being added to the season return in January, that we could actually see less of Naomi and Summer Rae in that season.
That would be it. Yeah, I mean that's what if you put it that way, it could line up in that manner for sure.
That's for sure. It's not 100% confirmed, but what I've been told that Naomi and Summer Rae might have less of a more prominent role in the series when it returns.
All right, it should be interesting to see what happens. I've been watching it. My wife's hooked on it, so we watch it every Sunday night or when I can if I'm not doing stuff on the website. Let's continue and break down the card. It's you and I here. This match, I'm excited. I don't know anymore. I just feel like Rusev is going to win, right? So it's Big Show versus Rusev. We saw that huge segment on Monday Night Raw where the soldier got kicked in the face. It looked like a real legit kick. The guy he looked like he got laid out of it.
And
he was obviously an indie worker. I knew that he was. I think for the smart people, they knew that was a work. I mean, some random guy running to, and looked very realistic. I said it on somewhere where the acting was great. But for anybody to think that was real, you got to be crazy. I mean, I just could never see that, especially that the uniforms were off and it's just everything. It looked like it looked
more like a hunting suit than it did actually military like camo.
I'm sorry?
I said it looked more like what people would wear to go hunting than it would be that they wear in the military.
Yeah, it was totally fake. The colors were off. I mean, if you see soldiers, the thing is, like, for someone like me, I got a family that's been in the Navy, in the Army. I mean, I've seen uniforms before. It just looked off. The kick looked real, though. And Big Show's tears, I know he's always crying and almost overreacting. I guess his face is so big, it's disturbing to watch this man get like that. But otherwise, it's a good segment. It brought a lot of heat. People were shocked in the crowd, and those are the moments in wrestling you look for. That what the hell did I just see moment? And it was good for the build to this match. At the end of the day, I think we all know what's going to happen. I think Big Show is screwed. He's going to lose, and somebody else is going to come try to save him, because that's how they're building Rusev. He's a monster and a beast, and he's beating everything and everybody in front of him. I think that's what's going to happen. John, let's jump to you, and then we'll go back over to Wayne. What is your take?
I wonder if Mark Henry is going to come in and turn heel and go after Big Show. Because I don't see the two of these guys, their partnership, their friendship, whatever it is, lasting long without the two of them going after each other at least once. And if Mark Henry could easily pull you think you're better than me going after him because I couldn't beat him, and try to do the whole Hall of Pain thing again, I don't know. But I think Rusev's going to win easy. And they're not building him up just to have him lose to Big Show of all people.
And Wayne, what's your take?
My take is that if we have any Russian fans listening in, Rusev Vyzhgorayet.
Oh man, I don't know what you just said. You freaked me out.
I said Rusev wins.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we're doing that stuff. I'm gonna. Okay, no, I agree. Rusev wins. Big Show, Mark Henry dynamic. It's intriguing, but Henry's been backing off. I don't know what's gonna happen. They look like they're about to feud, and they're not. I'm intrigued to see these big guys in the ring. Big Show is becoming the slow show, or the big slow. He's later in his career. I don't know how that dynamic's gonna work. I hope that Rusev. I hope they don't kill each other in the ring, or whatever the case is. I just don't know how this match is gonna look, and I'm not really excited about seeing it. I don't think it's gonna be much of a wrestling match, and just because it's Big Show. I mean, he doesn't have that mobility, as the other guys do. So it should be interesting to see at the end of the day. What was that?
I think if Big Show wins and Rusev loses, the question is where do they go next? And that's for both men.
Well, like I said,
saying Kurt Angle.
Yeah,
I think Rusev realistically.
American, so where do they go next?
I think Rusev realistically is going to go after Sheamus or Ziggler or Cesaro or Miz, whoever is the champions. Or I really don't see him going anywhere but getting a mid-card championship. And Big Show, like I said, Mark Henry, if you want my opinion.
Yeah, that looks like what's going to be next year for Big Show. It's Rusev. It's going to be, as we said earlier, it's going to be an intriguing one. Who he's next opponent will be.
I mean, I'm going to stand by it. I would love to see, you guys know what I want to see. I want to see Kurt Angle. He's the only guy that could come out. It makes sense if they're going to keep on with this American thing. Realistically, I think that he should go out after one of the championship belts. I mean, and the one that makes sense to me is this next match, and Sheamus. I don't see The Miz defeating Sheamus, and I would love for Monday Night Raw to start. Rusev comes out, and he defeated Big Show, and Sheamus comes out with that United States Championship belt. Look, Sheamus is not for America, but it'll be intriguing to say, look, I may not be from here, but WWE is an American product. It's giving me my opportunity.
Want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
What? Well, look, fella, I've got the US title, fella. And if you want this title, fella, you gotta come for it.
There you go, man. That's what I'm talking about. You know, I mean,
there's one man we actually forgot, and he's advertised for next week, but keep it secret. Mr. America.
Mr. America. Oh, well, hey. There you go. Hulk Hogan didn't want his match come out as Mr. America. I don't know, guys. I feel like it's gonna be. I'm more intrigued about Monday Night Raw and Russo coming out than the actual match at Hell in a Cell. So that's my take on that. I don't know, John. You got anything else you want to put on that?
Nah, I pretty much gave all my opinion.
All right, guys. Let's go. And this is Main Event Madness. We're reviewing Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. We got a couple matches left. Or not reviewing, kind of previewing, giving our 2 cents. Because I think combined, the three of us have like over 30 years of wrestling knowledge, experience. So I think we're pretty damn credible. And we're going to get all these matches right, except John. John's not going to get anything right.
Don't be mean.
I know. John's like another brother, too, so he knows I mess with them. All right, so more puppies, guys. Not only do we have 2 matches featuring puppies at this pay-per-view.
How sad is it that this match is getting a higher billing than the Divas Championship match?
Because it's going to result in loser leaves WWE.
Yeah, but right now it's just the losers, the winners bitch for a month.
No, that's what happens when you go to sleep. There's been an addition
to
the
loser leaves WWE. Or if they refuse to do it, they leave WWE.
Exactly.
So is Brie going to leave WWE again?
I kind of feel the other way. For some reason, my gut is telling me that the writers want Nikki to lose to Brie. Why? I don't know. Nikki's been wrestling every week, and Brie's been. I just feel like they're going to change the dynamic of the storyline and have Nikki become Brie's biatch. But then the problem with that is that Nikki is not going to be able to handle it, and Nikki's going to say, "There's no way in hell I'm going to be Brie's whatever,"
bitch.
And she ends up having to quit. But since she's in good with Stephanie McMahon, in a couple of weeks, Nikki Bella comes back, and whatever happens, happens at that point.
It's just all for Total Divas. Come on.
Yes, we all know that.
It's going to result in Brie and Nikki hugging in about, give or take, 6 weeks.
I agree. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I get that. You guys really intrigued about this match?
No.
Not once. I agree. Same here. I'm not really. I mean, it'll be nice to see the Bellas out there because they're twins, and all the guys like that.
Yeah, Al likes that. He's just trying to skate around that.
Like, don't get me wrong. It's going to be a good match between 2 good divas, but I've zero interest. That's been brutally honest. If it wasn't for Total Divas, I think if it wasn't for Total Divas, and if there's more put into it.
I'm more interested in seeing what this new hoverboard looks like. That was basically straight out of Back to the Future. If you want
straight out of what? I'm sorry.
Back to the Future.
What?
You never saw Back to the Future?
Back to the Future.
No, it's just that you keep on. I'm sorry, it keeps on like cutting out on my end. I'm sorry, guys. Back to the Future.
Yeah,
Of the 2 matches, which one's more intriguing? Would it be between the Divas Championship and the Bellas
Championship
title?
You see, I could put them both. I put them in the same. I really don't care about either of them. Well, I really don't care. I care less about it. I would love if the rumors are true. Not even the rumors that Mickie James said that she would be open to the idea to come back. I would love to see her come back and put some energy into that Divas division, a different energy. I'm not intrigued at all by these Divas matches. of that, but it is what it is. Next, we go into one of the double main events here, and Triple H tried his hardest on Monday Night Raw to sell this as two main events because Brock Lesnar is out playing chess with himself at his home, maybe with Sable, who knows? But
for just $9.99.
Just for $9.99, he's going to be home watching the pay-per-view. This guy hates. I can't even see Brock Lesnar watching the pay-per-view. He's probably just going to be home. I can see him with Sable on a black leather couch, petting a cat, just chilling back and not even caring about what's happening.
You got way too much into detail on that.
I kind of want to give props to Heelbook for they made an amazing promo about Brock missing the pay-per-view.
This is crazy. So we're going to get John Cena, Randy Orton, 3,000.
John Cena versus Randy Orton for the 632nd time?
Yes. It's like, I'm so upset that they did this. You know, I really wanted to see the young guys versus the old guys. And John Cena and Randy Orton aren't that old, but you guys know what I'm saying. I wanted to see the different matches that were lining up. And what was it? It was going to be if John Cena...
It'd been John Cena versus Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose versus Randy Orton.
Yeah, so it seemed so intriguing what they were doing. I was even hoping for a three-way dance, you know, in the Hell in a Cell between Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and John Cena. Just let them go at it, and that be the main event. And maybe have Randy Orton versus Kane because of all the tension between I don't know, it's just something different. I didn't want to see the same. I just didn't want to see this again. I wanted to see the young guys versus these guys. I mean, we've seen Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins before already.
It's not going to be the same thing, though, because this could be the first time Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins main events. Something that we mentioned back towards the end of Wrestling 365 and when we became Main Event Madness, that we thought that this could be a main event. And here we are.
I agree. Don't get me wrong. You hit it on the nail. I think you said that, right? That could be a main event at the pay-per-view. I remember you saying that.
The thing is, though, if you wanted to sell two main events without a champion, would you put John Cena versus Seth Rollins, or would you put John Cena versus Randy Orton?
You see, that's where I see Vince McMahon saying, you know what, we got to take the safe route and put John Cena versus Randy Orton again because they're the guys. Why not take a risk? Wrestling's about risk.
I think they did take a risk. That they had Ambrose go over Cena to get his hands on Rollins. That's what you want to happen.
I think they're going to take another risk, and then they're going to have Ambrose and Rollins go on last.
It's been about Rollins versus Ambrose, Rollins versus Cena, and then you got to take in the Shield storyline as well. Since then, it's about time Ambrose got his hands on Rollins. And what better place to put it in than the Hell in a Cell, which you can see on the WWE Network for just $9.99. Cheap pop.
$9.99.
That's what makes it better when you do the $9.99. The fact that you put all night long, I love it. It makes me happy. I don't know why.
$9.99.
And that's how it is for my childhood too. So maybe it has something to do with that. Let me tell you, I think they're going to put on great matches. I think storyline-wise, either way they went, because everything was mixed and intertwined with each other, that they could have made it work anyway. A lot of people don't want to see John Cena versus Randy Orton. You know what? They're going to tear down the house. It's going to be a good match. Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins, after the promo that I saw Mick Foley do, and after what Dean Ambrose did with the dummy, and I think this match is going to be sickening to watch. And I hate to say this, because this might be stupid and minute, and maybe something that it's probably doesn't matter, but I hope to God there's a little bit of blood in one of these matches. I hate when they have a Hell in a Cell match, and everybody's just walking fine, and I want to see destruction. I want to see people getting their butts whooped. I don't want to see that there's a cage there and they're having a wrestling match inside of the ring. I want to see them destroy each other. I don't care about John Cena and Randy Orton. Let them do their little 5 moves and their little Viper pump that that he does on the floor, which I've hated since back in the day, and John Cena do his little FU, but Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins needs to be an annihilation between both of those men. And that's what I want to see. I don't want to see a wrestling match. I want to see them have a fight with things I've never seen before. I want to see them innovate something that I haven't seen in wrestling in a long time or ever before. I just want to see something different, and I want them to kick their asses, each other's ass in that ring, in that Hell in a Cell. That's my little rant on these matches.
Personal opinion, what I would love, and I mean literally love to see, is a curb stomp through the top of the cell. Yeah, I know it's high, but if you can do it, my God, just think that.
Do a what? A curb stomp? Holy crap! Are you from the top of the ring?
From the top of the cell.
Oh, you're crazy! I didn't even know what would happen.
Imagine that moment. That's all I'm just saying. Imagine that moment.
My God, you killed it.
I think somebody would break their leg, Seth Rollins, and I think somebody would break their neck. And that would be Dina. That would be incredible. I don't know.
God, that killed him.
If they were to step to do where like Ambrose was positioned and Rollins wouldn't go through, if you get me. Whereas Ambrose is the one that goes through and take it if he can take it.
You know, it'd be kind of cool to have cinder blocks set up, and Dean Ambrose gets his revenge on Seth Rollins with the cinder blocks.
That's probably something they can actually see creative thinking as well. Something to do with cinder blocks or something that
maybe they throw off Seth Rollins from the top of the ring onto the floor with those fake cinder blocks. That'd be kind of different. People will be like, "This guy's dead now," but you know, be kind of Mick Foley-ish. But I guess if you want to talk about
see something that we're not going to expect in that match.
I'm sorry?
We're going to see something we literally didn't expect in that match.
And that's what I expect. I want to see something we've never thought we would see.
Like Cena and Orton, they're going to use the structure for a brief bit. But I think Rollins and Ambrose, they're going to kill each other inside her. Safe to say it, just literally kill each other.
And let me ask you, for the most part, we've gone through the card in a way that makes sense.
Can Ambrose break out light bulbs?
You see, that's very dangerous. You can't be doing that in a live crowd. Because those particles could fly into the ring. I would never do that. I think there's a reason why they don't do that. Especially those fluorescent light bulbs. That is one of the most dangerous things that... Whoever thought of that is a jackass. And I'm sorry to say that. But you in the event promoters that let your guys go out there with a pack of light bulbs, your guys are morons. Because there's fiberglass in there. And it may look badass when they pop on their backs. But that is... dangerous in a stupid kind of way. Sorry.
I think Ambrose is going to go to CZW school on Rollins. There's going to be a lot of weird weapons.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I think there's going to be some weird stuff. What was it that fell out of his bag? We were like, what the hell is it? It was a
screwdriver, drill.
Oh, a cheese grater. There was a cheese grater. At first I thought it was a cowbell, but it was a cheese grater. I know I've seen that before, but I haven't seen it in a long time. You know, I mean, stuff like that is pretty cool. Here's my question to both of you gentlemen. It's a double main event. It's obviously not going to happen at the same time. What's going to be the true main event of the card?
Ambrose and Rollins.
Who's going to close? I'm sorry?
Ambrose and Rollins.
Are you saying that because you want to see that, or it's...
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Or you really feel that that's what's going to happen?
What I want to see is that. What I think will happen is more than likely Cena and Orton. Yay.
Wayne, what's your take on it?
I could see Cena and Orton closing, but for me, the main event is going to be Ambrose and Rollins. Mm-hmm. It's the match I'm intrigued to watch.
Yep.
Actually, on the Sunday night. Like, if we were after running up and down the card, and for me, Ambrose versus Rollins, that's what I want to see. Anything else is just, it's a match. But for me, Ambrose and Rollins, for the length of the feud, and for the way the two have gone on in recent months, just something I want to see. I want to see them literally go like, toe to toe, weapon to weapon, just as I said earlier, kill each other.
You know, and I agree. I mean, I see that. I personally, I'm going to say this. I'm going to give it to. I'm going to say this. You guys are saying they think you're going to put John Cena and Randy Orton. I'm going to give the WWE the benefit of the doubt and the way the booking's been going, that they understand that John Cena, Randy Orton, they've had that before. And I think they should understand the fact that Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, you don't know what the hell they're going to do in that ring. And if you put, that's a huge risk to the integrity of the main event if you put Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins before John Cena and Randy Orton, because I don't think John Cena and Randy Orton are going to be able to do what Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins are going to do in the Hell in a Cell. So if you put Ambrose and Rollins first before Randy Orton and John Cena, those expectations for that Cena-Orton match are going to be set a lot higher. So if you flip it around, I think that Cena-Orton first would make sense. That way, when you close that pay-per-view out with Ambrose and Rollins, it means a lot more.
Yeah, but if you put...
does that make sense to you?
The only bad thing about putting Orton and Cena first is that you're pretty much guaranteeing that Orton's going to win. Because you're not going to have John Cena lose and then Dean Ambrose lose back-to-back. You're either going to have a face win and a heel win, or a heel win and a face win. Which most
well, I think these days that doesn't matter as much. I mean, I think that they'll do whatever the hell they want. To,
Orton's going face anyway, so we all know that. After what happened on Raw. It's going to end up being face.
Oh, wait, and then when we forget about that stipulation we haven't even talked about. Whoever wins gets the number one contendership.
Does it worry you that we get Randy Orton versus Triple H again, Wayne?
I actually don't want Randy Orton versus Triple H. I actually prefer to see Randy Orton beat Cena on Sunday. I actually want Orton to beat Cena on Sunday. Because yes, there's reports that Cena gets Lesnar soon. I'd actually prefer to see Orton versus Lesnar, then give Cena Lesnar.
Don't really get why Cena deserves another opportunity anyway.
And if you guys think about it, it would make so much sense. Orton defeats John Cena. Cena's like, WTF? What am I going to do now? He then feuds with Seth Rollins. Maybe an eventual match where they put the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line. I'm not saying Cena would win that match, but it would. If Cena were to, if they did it right, they could have Rollins go over Cena on that match and have a legit main eventer now with Rollins after beating John Cena if they were to go that route. I don't want to see Lesnar and Cena again until next year, for the love of God. I'm done with that feud. So Orton versus Lesnar, I'll take it. I would not mind seeing that at all. And then have Cena versus Rollins. Look at that. We have a whole different main event picture. Now the question is, what happens with Dean Ambrose? Where does he go from there? And then once Roman Reigns returns, there's just a lot of dynamics that are going to change in the next couple months. And it's going to be interesting to see where it all lands.
You're wondering about Dean Ambrose. There's one man for me that I think is coming for Ambrose.
We're here.
You think with that already?
You put a lunatic against a lunatic, what you get? Positivity. Fans reacting to it. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, there is a lot of possibility. I personally want Randy Orton to win. Wayne, who do you think is going to win?
As I said earlier, I'd actually like to see Orton win to give it a change.
Okay. Do you feel in your gut that's going to happen?
Gut feeling says no, but personal feeling, I want it.
Alright, I can't wait till this Sunday. And how about you, Mr. Sick Boy over there?
I gotta agree with Wayne.
Alright, so we're all hoping for Randy Orton. Our guts are saying that. You know what's funny? I always call the commissioner of the NFL, what is it, Roger Goodell?
Roger Goodell.
Yeah, I call him Goddell because he's like God. So I think God Cena is going to prevail in this match because he is the wrestling god right now, and they protect him like he's God. And Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. I don't feel like anybody's going to win this match. I think they're going to kill each other in this ring. And I wouldn't mind it. I don't mind them. Somebody gets knocked out and it ends in an X. And I hope it's a fake X, by the way. If you guys don't know If somebody gets injured in that ring, the referee comes out with the X, and medical personnel comes out to take care of them. I hope they do that, but in a fake way, and they end the match where nobody really wins. It's just they're both knocked out, and I think that's what's going to end the pay-per-view. Quickly, Wayne, what's your thoughts?
Ambrose wins, Orton costs Rollins. That's my take. Orton's going to come in with an RKO from out of nowhere.
So wouldn't that imply that Orton lost the Cena match?
That's going to be the tricky thing.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens, huh?
After what happened on... There's 3 updates, 6 or 7 times after saying this already. But after what happened on Raw, something's got to happen with Orton and Rollins, on Sunday.
And so let's say, this is what aggravates me about the WWE. Seth Rollins and Cena, to me, have unfinished business. And now it looks like they're creating heat between Seth Rollins and Randy Orton. So now we got to play, the WWE Universe has to play stupid again, because something's going to happen there where we're going to have to forget that John Cena wanted to kill Seth Rollins. That's what it looks like, that they're going to screw us again and make us look stupid. But it is what it is. Am I overlooking it, Wayne?
I don't know. I think there's too much to take in with the 2 main events. Like, where do they go? What's going to happen next?
And we haven't even brought in the Brock Lesnar situation. They're saying he's coming back in December. That's if we're lucky. I mean, it's just crazy. At least we're able to have a conversation and not know 100% what's going to happen at the pay-per-view. And that's a good thing about we can't really predict it. We don't know what's going to happen after. And that's a good feeling, because that's why we like watching wrestling, because it entertains us and we don't know what's going to happen next. So that's a good thing to know, that we're not 100% sure what's going to happen after this pay-per-view. John, we gave our opinion. What's your opinion on this Ambrose Rollins? Who's winning?
I'd like to see Dean Ambrose win. Sorry, I had to step away for a second. I'd like to see Dean Ambrose win, but I think Seth Rollins will win. They'll try to keep it going a little bit, maybe do a Survivor Series match or something like that. And maybe make it lead to... They say it's a blowout, but I don't think so. I think there's a little bit more traction they could get out of Rollins and Ambrose, and maybe do a Money in the Bank match at TLC.
And TLC is the next pay-per-view?
TLC, no, Survivor Series is next, and then TLC.
Okay, and I heard they're going to do a traditional 10-man Survivor Series match, so that maybe that's where it goes. Maybe we'll see Roman Reigns return, John Cena, Dean Ambrose team up to face the Authority, and God knows who else.
John Cena, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, and question mark versus Kane, Seth Rollins, question mark, and question mark.
Well, maybe Triple H. I mean, he hasn't wrestled in a few months.
I can't see that.
Maybe the New Age Outlaws return after disappearing off the face of the planet.
Oh, we didn't know.
We didn't know. That's funny. I think that covers the pay-per-view. This is a special edition of Main Event Madness, guys. We got Jim Varsallone coming up here. I know it's kind of short-ended between the 3 of us, but this interview is simply amazing. We have a lot of interviews coming up. We haven't been able to get to them all, but I'm just going to throw it out there now. We're going to have Ezekiel Jackson. We're going to have Sim Bodie. What was his name back in the day?
Kazarni.
I always get him mixed up with the TNA guy, or Ring of Honor now. A novelist is coming up. We got Matt Hancock. We're working on Truth Martin. There's a lot of things that are coming together here. John's probably mad because I threw it out there, but I want you guys to know that we've been working in the background. Just I haven't been able to do a show, and we apologize. And Wayne, is there anything else you want to say? I know that John's going to put up these commercials here shortly, I hope, and then run into the to the interview itself. So, you got anything else you want to put in?
I'm good.
All right, we appreciate Wayne Daly of Wrestling-News.net joining us today on Main Event Madness. John, you got anything else you want to say?
No, pretty much got everything out that I wanted to say.
All right, so that's our preview, whatever you want to call it, of WWE Hell in a Cell. John, it's your turn to do your magic. Play those commercials, play that amazing interview, and thank you again for supporting Main Event Madness. It's truly appreciated.
I will correct Wayne on one thing. Survivor Series is not in Boston. It is in St. Louis, Missouri.
Well, that makes the Arden situation more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Followed by
Wayne
TLC
has
live
been
from
called
Cleveland.
out.
I don't mind being called out. So I Boston.
All right, guys, so coming up here in a couple minutes, like what Al just said, we got Jim Varsallone of the Miami Herald, so stick around. It's going to be an awesome interview. It's a long interview, but it's an awesome interview. So we'll be back in just about a minute or so with Jim Varsallone and Al Merriman. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Looking for quality wrestling news with an international flair? Looking for results and news from around the world? Look no further than Wrestling-News.net. Wayne Daly and his crew have you covered from top to bottom, from WWE to TNA to the top independent companies from around the world. Check them out, Wrestling-News.net. Looking for more than your average wrestling website? Looking for the fastest growing wrestling news site on the internet today? With quality news, results, and more. Wrestling News Report has everything you'd want in a wrestling website. Al Merriman has you covered with the latest and biggest stories of the day from all around the world of pro wrestling. Check them out today, WrestlingNewsReport.com. So you're cruising around the internet looking for some entertainment. What if I told you there's a hard-hitting, fresh, and opinionated podcast out there covering everything from WWE and TNA to the NFL, the NBA, and MLB? Well, that's reality. Main Event Madness is here. Don't miss us every week on MainEventMadness.com as well as on TuneIn Radio and Stitcher.com. Main Event Madness, our wrestling, your sports, simply madness.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Alfonso Merriman with John Curry here. We got Jim Varsallone of the Miami Herald. We really appreciate you joining us today. Jim, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Glad to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. I don't know if you remember me from back in the day of ForceOfWrestling.com. We were supposed to have you years ago. So for me, in a sense, this is like 4 years in the making, and you probably don't even know it.
Well, the thing is, good things take a long time to happen. You never want to rush into things. So
yeah,
it works.
I truly appreciate it. For those who don't know, Jim Varsallone is a reporter for the Miami Herald. You've been covering wrestling for, it seems, for years and years now, which is pretty cool. A lot of people would love your job, and I know you cover other sports. I was looking at your YouTube channel, and I know I've seen you cover some of the Miami Martin stuff and whatnot, but it looks like you primarily cover wrestling, correct?
Well, actually, YouTube channel, yes, but for what I do at the Herald, the wrestling is more of a secondary thing. Still don't consider pro wrestling a full-time job for anyone in the newspaper field, whether it be an online newspaper or print newspaper or both. So my main duties is I'm sports editor for the publication. Been doing that for a while. So I am in charge, involved in a lot of sports from the youth league level all the way on up. So it's interesting. It's been a long ride, and still this ride is going.
Oh, that is awesome. And so how long you been there with the Miami Herald? Now I've been seeing your stuff pop up for years. How long you been with the company?
20 years it's been with them. Before that was doing freelance, working for the weekly newspapers, doing a full-time job there, and really got started with pro wrestling when I was at the weekly newspaper about 35 years ago. And they used to have the old championship wrestling from Florida with Gordon Soley, and it's been a long ride, and it's been an interesting ride to see the evolution of the sport. Because as you guys know, with anything, whether it be cars, whether it be clothes, whether it be food, whether it be business, how we do things. No matter what it is, everything evolves. Nothing stays the same. And it's just the process. And when life goes on, that's what happens. A lot of fans, and over the years, a lot of fans, it's hard to watch something, anything, for a long time and still enjoy it. Because it's always, when I was younger, it was better. I didn't have to walk miles to school. There's always something's better. So it's hard to keep that going with anything. And it's just interesting to me that the main things for me is looking at pro wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever it wants to be called. It's interesting to me that you had something that was basically done in territories, and now you just have one survival of the fittest, so to speak, and you have the survival. Even though we do have a lot of indie wrestling still going, that's still going on, and that's something we could watch. To really just, WWE has been able to outlast everybody, and it's like I said, it's just been interesting to see. But it's just so hard. Let me tell you, it's so hard. Look at TV. When you look at TV and you look at TV shows, I mean, what's the shelf life of a TV show? You look at that. Maybe if it's a good show, maybe 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Do you ever think of why that is? I mean, this pro wrestling, WWE, WCW, NWA, Ring of Honor, whatever it is. Why is it TV shows, Seinfeld, lasted a long time? Simpsons is still running strong. But overall, a good TV show, maybe it'll last 4 or 5 years. Why is that? Because it's hard to keep everyone's interest. It's hard to keep the characters fresh. It's hard, the writers, to write. I mean, even TV shows, you look at that, they don't go year-round. What do they have, 20, 25 episodes?
No,
you're talking WWE has been able to do this for how many years without reruns, going year-round. To me, it's amazing. And that's not to say, hey, you're not going to like everything, of course. But to me, I think fans take it to the extreme sometimes, and I don't think they understand the process that really goes in to making a TV show. And they've been able to do this for, God, they said SmackDown just had its 15th year anniversary. It's amazing a show has been able to last that long without reruns. And it's incredible to me to see that. I think fans need to realize that when they're watching too, just to see, because it's very easy to lose interest in something, and that's why these other TV shows don't last. It's hard to keep the characters fresh. It's hard to keep the talent happy. It's hard to come up with new ideas for things, and it's interesting. I always look at it. I'm amazed by the process.
And let me ask you, when you started trying to go back to where you said you started freelancing, and then obviously you did local papers and you ended up with the Miami Herald. Was wrestling always something that you were writing about, or is this it came up as you were at the Miami Herald? Was that how everything came to be, where you're actually covering? Because I've seen a lot of the stuff you do, at least with the wrestling aspect. I wasn't aware you were doing other things with the sports editing and whatnot, but you've been able to interview so many great people in the past years. I mean, how has that experience and a whole been for you?
When I was working with the weekly newspapers, when I actually started covering wrestling when I was in college, and did a couple of things for the college newspaper when they came to town. I went to the weekly newspaper. I was doing a lot of the high school sports and the local sports, and would cover wrestling per se when they came to town. Always was interested in it, so always wanted to do it. The Miami Herald had a wrestling column, and that started way back when with Alex Marvez, who now does a lot of pro football. Covering pro football for years. He was the one that actually started the print version of the column. And then John Patton, who was someone that he went to school at the University of Florida, he was writing for the Miami Herald and sort of took over the wrestling column for a little while. And while I was working the weekly newspapers, and I started doing freelance as well with the Miami Herald, other publications. And what happened was I came into the pro wrestling after John Patton and sort of picked up the column a little bit. But at the time, the business was changing, our business was changing, and online was just starting. And you saw newspapers were starting to go online, and look, when you're online, you don't have to worry about space as far as newspaper print. You don't have to worry so much about the dollar, so to speak, the advertising dollar. And one thing led to another, and I went to them and said, listen, I want to do something online. I want to create something for online people. And at that time, it was very new. So it just happened. I started the online product for them, and that's something they were fine with because it didn't take away any space in the print version. They didn't have to worry about anything as far as advertising goes for it or anything like that because the online product was so new and free and everything was good there. So basically it was one that started the online product. But I'll tell you what, but it really was something that I had to do something else to be able to do that. I wanted to do pro wrestling, but I had to do something else because when Alex Marvez was doing it, when John Pat was doing it, that wasn't their number one thing. It wasn't our number one thing. We were doing something else. That was our main job. That was our full-time gig, so to speak. It was something that just, in the industry, it wasn't a full-time job. So if you really enjoyed and wanted to do it, you had to do something else. And it just evolved from there. But it really went from the weekly newspaper to the Miami Herald. It went from doing it periodically, but I always was interested in it, always watched it. It was something I wanted to do. And I really, you mentioned interviewing so many people over the years. I really wanted to do more than just ask, hey, what growing up? And yeah, sometimes I ask that, but I really want to do more personal profiles and find out what they really were like, more so than the wrestling magazines. I grew up with the Aftermags. For any older fans, that was something Bill Apter, the legend. I still think he's the pioneer of wrestling writers, photographers. He's the man, and he still does. He still does a lot of the wrestling writing, photography, and all. Doing a lot online. Every once in a while, he has a story on WWE.com as well. But Aftermags was Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Wrestling Superstars. It was still today. They have the PWI, which has their top 500 wrestlers of the year. They list there for indie wrestlers, big other WWE, et cetera. Really started with the Aftermags, and was fortunate enough to do some freelance for Bill over the years, and that was a really different type of twist because it went from covering wrestling on a storyline basis to covering wrestlers and who they are and what do they like outside of the ring. And I really enjoyed that. And I found out over the years, too, that a lot of the men and women were athletes. They had athletic backgrounds from other sports, whether it be football, whether it be in some instances baseball, basketball, bodybuilding, weightlifting. They played a lot of sports in high school. Found out a lot of different things about them that, to me, was, hey, look, they're not just what they are, what you see on TV. That's something they're portraying, more or less. They might take some of their experiences, real life, and parlay that into their character. But I was really interested in doing the profile pieces of what it was like for them growing up, what it was like for them to get started in the business, and how they got their break. And this doing things like that, and you find out some interesting stories sometimes about them when you're doing things like that. So it really evolved from that, going from the weekly newspaper to the daily newspaper, and then really making a push to have it online, and was able to keep it going for all these years online.
That's definitely it's an awesome story. I mean, it's just sustain that for so long. It's very hard to break into the business. John and myself have been working really hard. We have big goals for our show. So here's my question to you. Do you have any advice for someone like myself and John? You know, we were previously known as Wrestling 365. We kind of switch over to Main Event Madness so we could be broader. Now we're talking about NFL, Major League Baseball, and, working on some great interviews just like yourself. And we hopefully, maybe one day get on radio. That's our goal. Do you have any advice for two guys, one from Miami, one from up north, trying to make it in this sort of business, per se?
I think that what you just mentioned, I think, is a really good way to go, because I really think that if you focus on one thing, one sport, one entity, you're leaving a lot of people out there away from what you're trying to do. I think it's good to incorporate NFL, Major League Baseball, all the big sports, anything that you have an interest in. I think it's good to just make a cocktail, so to speak, of different sports and different things, because I think a lot of fans that like WWE or Ring of Honor or any of the indies, I think a lot of them are sports fans. They like sports. It's always been a question, what is pro wrestling? Is it sports? Is it entertainment? Well, it's both. It really has evolved into that. It's become split. That's why sports entertainment. It's all that. I think with what you guys are doing, it's good, because you go to a lot of these WWE shows or watch them on TV, and who do you see out there? You see celebrities out there, but you see a lot of athletes. Ben Roethlisberger, Dan Marino, you see Jason Taylor, you see a lot of Karl Malone, Dennis Rodman getting involved in matches for WCW way back when. You see a lot of the athletes and some celebrities. A lot of celebrities that are on there are pushing their movie or TV show that they're doing, but some of them are fans. You see a lot of athletes, though, that are pro wrestling fans. They appreciate what these guys do, and ladies. They respect what they do. They know it's hard and difficult to do it. And so to me, when you see the athletes are watching it, and they're there, and you see a lot of the wrestling fans are into other sports, I think it's a good idea to incorporate baseball in your show and basketball and other sports in your show. And the thing is, it's so different now, because there's so much competition out there because of online. I mean, you could create your own shows or blogs and just do everything online. It's amazing. But that also makes it more challenging to try to get people to read or watch or listen, because there's so many different things out there. And what you want to try to do is find some type of niche that you're good at, be true to yourselves, enjoy what you're doing, and I think if you enjoy baseball or basketball or football or whatever else, hockey, whatever else it is, mixed martial arts, that you incorporate in your show and include the wrestling, because I'll tell you what, you could talk to pro wrestlers about football. You could talk to them about hockey. A lot of our Canadian friends that are into pro wrestling love hockey, grew up with hockey. You can talk to them about different things. You can talk to the pro athletes if you're able to interview them. I remember when WrestleMania was down here in Miami, and I did a thing leading up for the whole year, leading up to the WrestleMania, Sun Life Stadium in Miami Gardens. I remember I was interviewing Florida Panther hockey players, Miami Dolphins, Miami Marlins, about WrestleMania, this huge event, going to Miami, but also what it was like for them, and were they fans, and who they grew up with, and they enjoyed talking about that. It was something different for them to talk about, and they enjoyed it. And my point is that there are so many wrestling fans out there, so many pro athletes that are wrestling fans, that I think to mirror with the other sports, combining your show, combining what you do, talking about other sports, I think opens it up to more fans, and you're going to open it up to different interviews and all, because they enjoy talking about it. It's something different to talk about.
I appreciate your advice. Maybe in who knows, 20 years from now, somebody will be interviewing John and myself, picking our brains. So I appreciate your honest.
God, I hope people are wasting their time interviewing me.
It means a lot. I saw a couple of your interviews, on YouTube, and back to the wrestling aspect here, I saw you interview Bo Dallas, Kevin Steen, Bray Wyatt, which I thought was an awesome interview you did with them. And the list goes on, obviously. Of those recent interviews you had at the Performance Center, I know they were promoting WWE 2K15. Of any of the new guys coming in, who left a lasting impression on you and why?
From the NXT, the talent there, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, Scott Fishman, who does a lot of the wrestling writing and edit a lot of Scott's work and put it up online at the Miami Herald, he did a really good, you mentioned Bray Wyatt, he did a really good interview at the Performance Center. They had a special event there, WWE 2K15, the video game, that will be out later this month, actually. They had a big event, and it was to promote the video game, of course, but they had the interviews with some of the NXT talent, and also Cesaro was there, and former Hugh Morris, Bill DeMott, Tough Enough, the head trainer, head coach over at the WWE Performance Center, he was involved. Scott talked to Bray Wyatt. We both went to that event, and we were debating how we're going to cover this, because we wanted to make sure we got everybody that was there. We were able to have time interviewing everybody. And so it was like, all right, listen, Bray Wyatt's probably going to be the biggest line because everybody's into Bray these days. It's a really good character. He does a great job with it. So basically it was like, all right, Scott. Scott wanted to interview him, do the interview. He did the interview with Bray. It came really good because it wasn't just Bray in his character. That's another thing we were talking about. Hey, what if he's in character? Because sometimes they'll be in their character when they're doing interviews. So when I'm always getting ready to do an interview with one of them, I would come prepared with two types of questions. One, if they're doing their character, and one, which is the interview I want to do about more of a personal profile, like I spoke about before. So, and Scott likes to do them when they're not in character. He likes to interview them when they're not playing who they are and talk to them. You talk about their character, but you talk about other things as well. And do that. I tell Scott, and he said, Scott, listen, if they're in their character, that's fine. That's good too. Have some questions ready about their character and all, but have some fun questions ready too. Have some fun with it. If they're going to be in character, they're going to be playing a role. Do some lighthearted stuff. Have some fun with it. So he was ready with that and all. But we were fortunate that he was more or less outside of his character. So Scott was able to ask him some questions outside of the box. And it did. It really came across really good, a good interview. I was able to interview. They were in Fort Pierce, Florida, which is between Orlando and Miami. And I was able to go to a couple of shows and do some interviews there before the show. And the last interviews I did was with, like you mentioned, Kevin Steen, who was one of their big indie signings that they just had. And what a great guy from Canada, a really good family guy. Found out just a lot about Kevin behind the scenes, and just how family is so important to him, and his road to get to where he got right now. Going from a barn, wrestling training in a barn and a flea market, to then stepping into this extravagant, elaborate WWE Performance Center was just a great journey for him. And it was fun interviewing him and finding out about his journey and how he was able to get to where he is. And also speaking to a guy, Baron Corbin, someone else that now they're pushing on the shows. But Kevin, they still haven't put on NXT yet. He's waiting for his debut there. He's training at the Performance Center. Baron's been now, I want to say about a year, maybe a little longer. He's been with NXT. Rides a Harley motorcycle, a biker guy. His character is more or less fits him. He comes out with a leather jacket, no-nonsense type of guy. And finding out that some of his interests were parlayed into his character persona, and was a former college football player, standout, I believe Division II football, and then tried the pros, and eventually evolved into pro wrestling through a tryout that he was able to get, and they liked him. And then Alexa Bliss, who's this 5 foot on a good hair day. He's very small, very petite girl who was into gymnastics and cheerleading, did a little bodybuilding, and through her agent, had a tryout with WWE, went down there, they liked her, just turned into a tough girl. She's a tomboy, tough girl, an aerial specialist who had this eating disorder. And first question I asked her was, so what was it like getting involved and getting into WWE? Because you have a gymnastics, cheerleading, and bodybuilding background. That's a little different. So what was it like for you? And what was it like growing up and being involved in all these sports? And from that question, it turned into, when I was growing up, I had an eating disorder. And I had to overcome that. And it was very unhealthy for me. But I really cared about what I looked like and what other people said. And basically, I was killing myself. And it was, wow, it turned into a powerful moment that, again, led to a couple follow-up questions and all. You just don't ever know where an interview may turn sometimes. But by asking other questions, you start to get some really personal content and issues with people. And you find out that, hey, it's not who just you see on these WWE Network shows or you see on Monday nights or Friday nights, whether it be Raw or SmackDown. But when you get down to it, these are real people just like you, me, and everybody else. And they go through ups and downs and problems and issues just like everybody else. And I think sometimes we get blinded by that because we see the bigger-than-life superstars and divas that we see on TV and celebrities, like in other sports, like in other movies and TV shows, and you find out things. You find out things about them, and for good things and the bad things sometimes too, and it just makes the interview, letting them talk about what they want to talk about and just listening to them, making sure you're listening to what they're saying, because you can have questions written down, and when something like that comes about, well, you didn't have any questions for that. You listen to their answers, and then you follow up with questions to their answers. Sometimes we're so wrapped up into asking our questions that we don't listen to what actually is being said, and we don't have those follow-up questions, which are so important to do and to sort of over the years, you practice all the practice and learning that you do when you're interviewing people. You just try to get the hang of it. Now, sometimes you're strapped for time because you only have 5 minutes to talk to somebody, and that's all they're going to give you. So you want to get your questions in that you want to get to ask. So, but if you have a little more time, it makes for a better interview. So the process of, especially with the NXT talent, it's been a really fun process being able to talk to them, to Prince Devitt, who's now Finn Balor, Fergal Devitt, talking to him lately, and talking to the Bo Dallases, like you mentioned, Kevin Steen, and all these different people. Jason Jordan's another. It's been speaking with him. And for me, the fun part was being able to talk to Bray Wyatt before anybody really knew Bray Wyatt, when he was coming down here and going to be at the Miami-Dade County Youth Fair with NXT. Before he was at WWE, and being able to talk to him behind the scenes, it was fun. Roman Reigns, another. Being able to do the first interview with Charlotte, who's now the Divas Champion with NXT, who's Ric Flair's daughter, who even said, who would think that I'd be the one carrying the legacy of the Flair family name in the business. And being able to talk to these people before anyone else has, or when they're coming up, it's a fun thing to do and find out about them.
You know, I definitely, let me tell you, when I first, I've been doing this for some time, and I remember one of my first interviews were with DDP, and then there was another one with, I believe, Mickey James. And this was years ago. I don't know, 10 years, I don't even know how long ago, 7, whatever the case is. But I remember when I was so nervous. I mean, I sounded like a robot. Because I didn't know about follow-up questions, and now I've seen myself progress, and it is important. You're right, to try to get those follow-ups and make the conversation flow a little bit better. I'm still learning. It's always one of those things that you don't want to miss the opportunity when you're having an interview, because you're so focused on your questions that you might miss something great, and if you don't have the right follow-up question.
Sometimes
it's an art. It's an art, I think.
A lot of times, here's what happens, too. When we grow up, whatever we grow up interested in, let's say football, and let's say you're a Dan Marino fan of when you're growing up, and then years later, here you are interviewing him, you're sort of in awe because this is someone you were a fan of. And I think that's the hard part about the business, the job of interviewing someone when you're a fan of them. or a fan of what they're doing. Because then you start to become more of a fan than an interviewer who has a job to do as a journalist. And what you have to do is you have to separate yourself from being Joe fan to instead being Joe journalist and having a job to do. And that's a big difference. Because I see that a lot, in especially with WWE and with pro wrestling, when people are interviewing them, it's hard for them to differentiate themselves from being a fan and to being a professional and doing an interview with them, writing a story, then doing a video interview, radio interview, whatever it is. The fan side comes out, and when that happens, it makes you a little more nervous. It makes you more in awe. What you got to remember is, look, they're there to do a job, and they're there to do an interview. You're there to do a job, but you're there to do an interview. That's the primary thing. And you take it like that. You go to any event. You go to a press conference for any sport out there. You can name any sport, and the bigger the event, whether it be college or pro level. And you're not going to see journalists after the press conference getting autographs, taking photos with the talent, with the superstars, with the coaches, with the quarterbacks, and things like that. You just don't do that. But it's different in pro wrestling. I see it when I'm at WWE events and all, and the journalists that are writing for whoever they're writing for or doing video or audio, whatever. It's different. Everyone's taking photos with them after the and the wrestlers, they're taking photos with them and signing autographs and doing that. And to me, I'm in awe because that's not how I was brought up in the business. It's like, wow, you don't go to a New York Giants press conference and then afterwards you're getting Eli Manning's autograph and a picture with him. You don't do that, Coach. Whoever it is, LeBron James, you're not getting a photo. You're there to do a job, but you know what? With pro wrestling, it's a little different, and I've learned that over the years, and I see that. It's just the way it is, and that's what they're used to, and that's how they're used to doing it, so they don't mind it, but if you try doing that at an NFL game or hockey, whatever it is, a college football game, you get your press pass taken away. You won't be able to interview them anymore and all, but it's a little bit different, I guess, with pro wrestling, and just that's the way it is, and they know it, and everyone knows it, and that's the way you deal with it and go with it. But my point is, it's the fandom of it. You get so wrapped up into being a fan that you lose sight of, okay, listen, I got to put the fandom aside. This is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm here. I'm due to do the interview, so that's what I have to focus on and all. Not, I got to get a picture with him, I got to get an autograph, et cetera, et cetera. So, like you said, as you do it and keep doing it, you sort of, the nerves start to lose that because you do it so many times, and it makes it a little easier to do. And I always think it's a good idea too to listen back to your interviews, whether you record them, even if you're not doing a video or audio. If anyone's a writer and just doing a story, listen to your interviews, listen back to them, and that way you could hear yourself and hear how you sound and how the interview process is going. Are you allowing them enough time to answer and not stumbling over what they're saying? Are you letting them talk and getting their message out? Because let's face it, I mean, nobody wants to hear me. They want to hear that superstar, that diva, that athlete, and what they have to say and what they're talking about. And that's what you have to also focus on as well. They're the ones that people are interested in, and they're the ones that are going to make your show, make your story, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to always take that into account, first and foremost.
All right, guys, and for those who's just joining us now, is Jim Varsallone of the Miami Herald. Jim, I know you visited the Performance Center, and you've been covering wrestling in Florida for quite some time. You've seen a lot of different facilities. When you first walked in there, what did you take from it? Is it true what they're saying, and is it as impressive as they're saying?
Yes, it is. And when I walked in, it was, I know a lot. I visited several wrestling facilities in South Florida. A lot of them are in warehouses, a ring set up in a warehouse, a ring set up at a gym, workout area, and they do the best they can with what they have as far as facilities go. But you got to remember, the indies, they're not making a lot of money, so they have to do whatever they could do financially that's going to be able to fit for them. Well, WWE is the biggest money maker out there, as far as pro wrestling, and it still will be, because there's nobody out there that has the money that's in the game that's going to compete with them, because you need money. No matter how much talent you have, I don't care what organization it is, no matter how much talent you have to have money to compete with WWE. It's just like any business. If you want to compete with Coca-Cola, you got to have the money to compete with Coca-Cola or McDonald's or whatever it is. You got to have the money to compete with the big one, with the number one. So, and there's no one out there that has the money like that to compete with them. When I walked in the Performance Center, this was a facility that fit the kind of money WWE has. You go to NFL football facilities. Those are facilities, NFL's making a lot of money, teams are making a lot of money. Those are facilities that fit the kind of money they're making. WWE got its idea from the Giants' state-of-the-art facility that they just built up there a few years ago. When WrestleMania was up in New York, New Jersey, they went and visited, Triple H went and visited that facility for WrestleMania and saw what the Giants were doing with its practice facility, and that's spawned the idea for him. We've got to do something like that for our guys and girls, and we got to do something to train them our way and give them a nice place to train. And that's what he did. And it was his vision and his idea, and that place, 7 rings, and they have they can set up a walkway in the ring. They've got state-of-the-art equipment. They've got trainers, strength, medical, top-notch personnel, that are full-time jobs that they've created that are working there to take care of talent if they're getting injured, if they need to use any type of facility, the hot tubs, whatever it is there. They have that. They have rooms where they can practice their interviews. And they have Dusty Rhodes helping them with interviews. Maybe people could say that you can not only practice, but there's Dusty Rhodes over there, by the way. So you could do your interviews with Dusty Rhodes. You have these people like the names we know, like Billy Gunn and Bill DeMott, who I mentioned before, and Terry Taylor, and Norman Smiley, and Robbie Brookside. These guys, Joey Mercury, that are working with talent. I would say this, you don't have to be the Hulk Hogan's. You don't have to be the Rock, the Stone Cold, the John Cena's, Edge. You don't have to be the top of the top to train wrestlers and to be good at it. Look at the coaches in the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA. For the most part, they weren't the greatest players. Rarely, actually, do you see the great players turn into coaches. Why is that? Well, maybe because they were the great playing, but maybe they're not the greatest teachers or the greatest minds as far as being able to tap into talent and to coach them. The WWE Performance Center has a dream team of coaches that they were able to be superstars. And maybe they weren't the main eventers. But what they're able to do, just like in other sports, is they're able to teach and coach and train. And that facility has the Sarah Amata, the Sarah Del Rey, for those that women's wrestling, the first trainer, female trainer that WWE has signed. I mean, that again, another Triple H idea. That's something. Where else do you have a female training female wrestlers? Well, you don't have a lot of female wrestlers when you're coming up in the indies. Maybe you'll have 1 or 2 at the schools. So basically, they're training with the guys, and it's still a male profession, so to speak. It still outnumbers the women. But Triple H had the idea: look, guys are able to train the women, and the women are training, and they're aggressive, and they're going at it. But why not have a female training the women? Who better that knows about women than a woman? And they brought Sarah Amata, and she's just done incredible. Paige, Emma, seeing some of the talent that's coming through. Charlotte's going to be coming up. It's coming through because of this facility, but not only this state-of-the-art facility, which is unbelievable, very impressive, but it's also the people that are there working with the talent that's as impressive as that facility. And that was just something that's incredible. People that I spoke to, the NXT superstars and divas that have gone on and the ones that are there now, tell telling me their stories of where they started, it's like night and day when they walk in that facility. It's unbelievable. It's just like it's Disney World from where they started, and it's just an incredible place.
And let me ask you, moving on from the Performance Center, it looks like there's a new wrestling promotion in town. I'm not sure if you were there or Scott Fishman was, but you guys had a couple interviews with RVD and Al Snow and a couple other guys down here in the Miami Beach Convention Center.
Ronin Pro Wrestling, yes.
Ronin.
We were both there for that. Let's see. No, wait. Scott wasn't there for that. I was there for that. So myself and another guy, Rodolfo Roman, who does something called the Roman Show, which is
yeah. He does some great stuff.
Yeah. He does a lot of MMA as well. Rodolfo and myself were down there. Others were there, but Rodolfo and myself were there for that. And it was Ronin Pro Wrestling. Yeah, it just started. What was your question about Ronin?
Well, I was just curious. I mean, what do you know about them? I heard they have a bunch of dates lined up now from Fort Lauderdale. I think they at the War Memorial Auditorium. Is this something that the South Florida fans should be excited about? They look like they got some names. What was your take from it being their first show?
They've got some really creative minds. I've been watching and covering wrestling for over 30 years, and it's hard to go to the show and see something different when you watch it for that long. And there were 4 or 5 things I saw, whether it be in talent, moves, promos, that were different. They've got a talented group behind the scenes because some of them also compete. And they're a group that they have a really good talent base, very strong indie talent, men and women. And like you said, brought names in. Their first show, they did at the Miami Airport Convention Center, and they drew over 400. Well, for an indie show, that's really good. And they did have some big names on that show, the Rock and Roll Express, Rod Van Dam, Joe Gertner, Tommy Dreamer, Al Snow. They were on that show. They were involved in some capacity, whether it was the Fan Fest or actually wrestling on the show or both. And RVD just did the Fan Fest. And it was very good to see the fan base, people come out and show their support for indie wrestling. We have another group, Coastal Championship Wrestling, CCW, which runs shows. They've been running shows for a while. And that's Dan Evans and Bruno Sassi and Pablo Marquez and that group. And they've been able to make a niche mark of it down here, run shows. Ronin now is trying to step up to the plate. And they had a really good first show. It was a little long. Everyone knows that, but when you're doing those indie shows, sometimes you're trying to make talent happy, making the wrestlers happy, so you want to try to get as many names on the show, many wrestlers on the show as you can. That's much the names, but your own homegrown talent, and it makes the show kind of long. So they did go long, but their first show, they drew 400. Fans had a really good time. They're going to be back at the Miami Airport Convention Center in November, and then in December they're going to be at War Memorial Auditorium, which was the home of ECW when they came down to Fort Lauderdale, and they're going to go to that venue and see what they could do there. Really what made it for them to get the fans out was they start doing the SuperCon. They have a big show down here in the summer, Florida SuperCon, which is one of the Comic Cons. So you get a lot of the comic book, superhero, video game fans that come out. And what the guys behind Ronin decided to do was, at the time, was incorporate pro wrestling into the SuperCon. So they were actually doing wrestling shows during the SuperCon, and this event was growing and drawing thousands of people, the SuperCon itself. And what they did was, well, listen, if we do a pro wrestling show and we use our pro wrestling names, people will walk by and maybe they'll watch, they're going to go see something else, another booth, another line, etc., get autographs of some of the celebrities that are at the SuperCon there. And that's fine, we could have a wrestling show, but the genius, the idea that came about through these guys was, hey, why don't we make it Green Arrow versus Spider-Man? And why don't we make it Goju versus the Scorpion, or Luigi and Mario tag teaming up against someone else from the video game, the Joker and the Riddler. Let's incorporate what these people are here to see, which is the Comic-Con, Florida SuperCon, and use our wrestlers and do it that way. And it was a big hit. People they were really interested in the wrestling fans did come out and watch too, but they were more interested in seeing their characters. And from that, they would get great crowds from people that were there that were wanting to see them. And it was 3 or 4 years ago, and it just kept growing and growing. But from that, what happened was they decided to buy their own ring and decided to do their own wrestling shows. Now, when they do the wrestling shows and created Ronin, they're not doing it as Green Arrow versus Spider-Man or The Flash versus Batman or anything like that. They're actually doing wrestling, but they have a strong base of people who had seen them wrestle at the Comic-Con there at Florida SuperCon, and what they did was they have a really big fan base that they tapped into of people that are not only interested in wrestling, but the SuperCon and said, hey, we're going to do this. Why don't you guys come out? Well, when you have thousands of people on the mailing list, the email list, and then you also start doing some small advertising during Raw, local advertising during Raw, saying Road to Pro Wrestling, who you're going to have on it. You're hoping maybe 1 of every 10 that attended Florida SuperCon will come out to your show. And maybe they didn't do that well, but they did really well. And it seemed like everyone was there. It was a mix of mainly pro wrestling fans that were at the Ronin show, but there were some from the Comic-Con as well that came out for Florida SuperCon, and it made a nice crowd, and everybody seemed interested and happy and had a good time with it, other than the length of the show. And the guys behind the scenes did a really good job. But it was interesting how their idea, it started with doing these wrestling shows as comic book heroes and video game stars, doing a show at a Comic-Con, at a SuperCon, their SuperCon, Florida SuperCon event, and then it evolved into what they wanted to do was start their own wrestling promotion. And they really did it was a really good idea, and they had a really good first show. They're hoping to build, I think they're going to have some legends, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, trying to get down, Greg the Hammer Valentine, and then some of the former ECW guys, and some of the former WWE guys, and maybe WCW, and trying to get some of those talent as well involved in the show. I mean, they had, for those who know ECW, Joel Gertner not only was at the Fan Fest, but then he was the ring announcer for the whole night. So that was funny, and that was something that was kept fans into it and all as well. They had a great debut, and they've got. But what I really like about Ronin is they've got some really good wrestling minds behind the scenes that are doing different things, and it's making it fun, making it interesting.
Yeah, it was funny because I saw them pop up out of nowhere, and I was like, man, these guys came in with a bunch of money and bringing all these guys in, and I saw they got video cameras. It looks like they want to do a TV show as well. So, best of luck to them, and hopefully they could grow, and it'll be great for South Florida because I know the CCW's been around for quite some time, but they should start catching my attention too on wrestling. We're about to wrap things up here, Jim. I really appreciate you coming on. I just wanted to ask you, one last question before we do the word association. From all your years of experience and all your interviews, is there one or even two that just stand out to you the most that you'll say, I'll never forget interviewing that person? It doesn't have to be wrestling related, just from a broad span of your experience. I mean, is there anything that you always remember to the day you retire, whatever the case is?
When you interview so many people over so long, such a period of time, when you started asking me that question, I was thinking about it, and the things I remembered was Future of Wrestling, which was an indie group many years ago. I remember one of my first interviews was with Bobby Rogers and Fabulous Frank, and they're still involved in indie wrestling in South Florida after all those years. That was a long time ago. And it was at the weekly newspaper, and they lived in the area. So when you're in a weekly newspaper, you're going to interview people that live in the area because it's a local newspaper. That's how it's done. And I remember they were young. Bobby, I think, was a teenager, and he was getting involved in wrestling, and they were going to start shows, their own shows and all, him and Frank. And I remember talking to them and interviewing them. And that's one of the things you remember one of the first times you interview somebody. That was one of the first interviews I ever did, and it's just interesting to see how they're still involved in it after all those years on the indie scene and different things that they've done and things that have happened over the years. I remember that. And then the other thing I remember is The Rock, because he was a local guy that went to the University of Miami and made a home down here and has made a home for his mother and father down here. And I remember at the old West Palm Beach Auditorium, which I think is now a Jehovah's Witness Hall. And it's a place that Championship Wrestling in Florida would run every Monday night when it was territory days with Dusty Rhodes and Jack and Jerry Briscoe and Mike Graham, Steve Kern, and Gordon Soley, all that, way back when. And I remember going to a WWE show, WWF at the time, at the West Palm Beach Auditorium, and when Rocky Maivia was starting up, being able to interview him backstage at the West Palm Beach Auditorium with his father, Rocky Johnson, WWE Hall of Famer, great wrestler in his own right, and being able to do an interview with both of them backstage there at that show. I remember those two interviews most, I think just from what happened and how they happened more so than the actual content of the interviews. But those two come to mind, and I remember doing a couple of profile pieces after that on Rock that I really, really enjoyed. I mentioned Bill Apter before. Bill Apter did a magazine called Wow, and that was just a glossy, it was like when you're talking about state-of-the-art, this was like a magazine, state-of-the-art magazine. It was incredible, and the photos were all color, it was all glossy, everything was just done well. And
I subscribed to that magazine. That was awesome.
It was an awesome magazine.
They were awesome.
Oh, it really was. I remember doing a cover story on Rock for Bill for that, and when you're able to do that, you're able to write longer because you have more space. And I remember doing something like that, and just and it was great profile pieces and all. I remember those are ones that stand out as far as for that. I remember other things. I remember doing a big story on Kurt Angle when Kurt Angle was going on the Howard Stern show and Pittsburgh newspapers, and I don't remember if he was on Opie and Andy, some radio shows, and he was always blaming WWE for a lot of the behind-the-scenes problems that he had and how they weren't trying to help him with the different types of pain medication and different kind of issues he was having backstage. And WWE was upset about this because he's going on these big shows, and they were like, we did try to help Kurt. Why is he saying this? Why is he creating these stories, these stories that aren't true? And I remember WWE, I remember them contacting me and said, Jim, we've got a story. We want to see if you're interested in doing this. And they told me about it, and I said, yeah, I want to do this story. And I remember trying to contact Kurt through TNA. He was with TNA at the time. He still is, but back the early days of his time with TNA. TNA didn't want anything to do with it. They didn't want to, no, we don't know. We're not having to contact him. I was able to finally contact his manager and said, listen, I have all this information. WWE's talking about it. I want to get Kurt's side. I just don't want to do a story one-sided. It's always important. No matter if you think the person's right or wrong, whether you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. You got to try to get both sides of the story. And then finally I was able to get some comments from Kurt and through his manager. And I said, well, listen, this story it's going to run because WWE has all this documentation. They've had everything written down. WWE is very professional in what they do and how they do things. They had meetings with Kurt behind the scenes, with him, with Paul Heyman, with other people that were just addressing, look, Kurt, we'll send you wherever you need to go. We'll take time off, do this, do that. And it was just documented, issues that he was having behind the scenes, and, why he was going and telling everybody what he was telling everybody. No one knew why, but that's what he was doing. Maybe he figured nobody was going to call him on it. And I remember doing that story, and after that story came out, Kurt Angle came out and just said, yeah, that's all true. WWE's right. I don't know why I said what I said, but I did, and it was accurate. They did try to help me, and, basically he was bad-mouthing them when he didn't have that reason for bad-mouthing them and painting that picture. But I remember that story. I remember when, it was another time with WWE, and and ESPN. I remember ESPN did a huge story. Bob Lee, unbelievable journalist, does a lot of investigative pieces for ESPN. Pro wrestling, WWF at the time, was really tapping into the Monday night primetime market. Well, that hit Monday Night Football, and it hit them hard. So even though the numbers Monday Night Football is still bigger, they were cutting some of Monday Night Football. Who wanted to watch the New Orleans Saints at the time play the Green Bay Packers when both teams were terrible on Monday night, when they could watch WWE and be entertained, or WWF or WCW and be entertained during the Monday Night Wars, then watch a lousy football game that if you weren't a fan of those teams, you weren't going to watch. So Monday Night Football is getting... So I remember Bob Lee and his team at ESPN did this big investigative piece on pro wrestling and how it was bad for kids, and how it was violent. Why are you letting your children watch this? Oh, woe is me. Our ratings are falling on Monday Night Football because ESPN and ABC were both owned by Disney. So that's why ESPN is doing this piece protecting Monday Night Football, even though that's not the reason they're going to say that's why they're doing the piece. I remember doing a column about that, and I remember WWF and when it got out there and how it started growing because the computer was starting to grow and people were starting to read things and going online. The story grew, and then ESPN, some people in ESPN had to come out that were no longer working there and saying, well, you know, that wasn't the only reason we did the story, but a lot of that's true of why they're doing that story and why the timing of it, which isn't right. If you're going to do a story, it shouldn't be based on your own self-awareness, your own self-gratitude because you're trying to help something else out and have another agenda for it. And I remember doing that column and that piece on that, and that was more of a column than it was a profile piece or a feature story. I remember that, but some of the things I remember, those are some of the things that come to mind when you ask me that question. What are the stories that I remember or interviews that I've done over the years?
I appreciate that. And, you know, we like doing word association. You know, you could do more than that, or doesn't have to per se be a word. Well, I'll give you a couple names and let me know how you feel or whatever, you know, the case is. I always love it. We had a former WWE diva last week on our show, Karma, and she called it the heat generator. But, I mean, I don't want any heat towards you, but hey, it is what it is. I thought that was awesome. But, all right, let's just get right into it. It's just a couple of them. And we're going to start with I guess, the pioneer now. I don't know what to call him, but Vince McMahon.
Carnival genius.
Dixie Carter.
Family-oriented, cares.
Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
Smart, great wrestler, great behind the scenes. I got to say this. I know it's word association. I got to say this, though. Jeff Jarrett can do it all. And I mean, in front of the camera, behind the camera. And I think people need to realize and understand that this is one of the all-time greats overall in the wrestling business.
I'm looking forward to seeing where GFW ends up. It looks like he has a vision. I just can't wait. I want to see it.
I know it's the word association, and we're getting away from that. It's okay. I'll tell you, that's the thing. Jeff Jarrett, him and his dad started TNA with nothing. Made it how about that? He took a weekly $10 pay-per-view every Wednesday night and made it into what it is today. And I don't care if people, whether they like it, don't like TNA, whether they agree or disagree with what they're doing. That company's now, Jeff Jarrett's not there anymore. He's starting something new, but that company's been around for over 10 years, and they have a national TV contract. To be able to do that in this day and age is incredible. And for what he was able to do, was incredible, is incredible, and I'm looking forward to see what he's going to do with this new organization that he's starting.
I definitely can't wait. It's a shame that TNA is where it's at now, seeing how they're trying to find a TV deal, which I think it's crazy. The report's saying they're not going to be able to find one. But
that's why I think that exactly. I think we jump everything with the rumors and the gossip, and we go with it. I mean, why wouldn't Spike TV want to sign them? Look, this is a leverage move, just like any other TV show. Mm-hmm. When you're in negotiations, you're not just going to say, "Oh, that's what you offer. Great, I'll take it." You're going to look and explore. Just like if you're at a job and you're interviewing for a job and you want to get the best job that's available for you, That's the same thing. Just get away, fans. Get away from the fan mindset. Look at it as a business. Look at it as a company and what you're trying to do. Not what you're trying to do in front of the camera, what you're trying to do behind the scenes. You're trying to get the best deal possible for you. So you're going to explore options no matter what they're going to be. But I kind of really feel like Spike TV does enjoy TNA, and they get great ratings for TNA does for Spike TV. They get great ratings. You don't need the 5 and the 6s anymore. You've got 50 million channels out there. The ratings aren't what they used to be. They're not going to be. Look at any TV show. Mm-hmm. Unless it's American Idol at its height or something like that, or the Super Bowl. You're not going to get the great, you don't need the big ratings numbers to survive on TV anymore, because there's so many different ways of watching TV, and there's so many cable channels out there, and there's so many different ways that you can watch TV these days. So if TNA's doing a 1, over a 1, etc., if WWE's doing a 3 and a 4, why do you think they're still on those channels? Because those channels are happy with those numbers. So of course they want to grow it. But you don't need the big number. Oh, they don't get like they used to with the Monday Night War. No, you know what? Nobody does. Whether wrestling or whatever TV show it is. So anyway, I'm not getting that TV show tangent because that gets me in with TNA and all what's going on with them. Just, you know what, Aaron Rodgers said it best with the Green Bay Packers 3 or 4 weeks ago when our fans were getting like, what's going on with the Packers? We lost. And he said, RELAX. Relax.
Yeah. He was. Let me tell you, and I know we're switching gears here, but man, I've been a Dolphins fan since I was a baby. What a tough football game for me to watch on Sunday. It was depressing.
Yeah,
I can't.
I agree.
Man, it was so sad.
That was so. To see him do the Dan Marino thing, but at least they didn't score a touchdown. That's what I said later. I said, wait a minute. When Dan Marino did it, they scored a touchdown against the Jets. Against the hated rival Jets.
Yeah.
It led to the touchdown, but he didn't score the touchdown.
It was a dagger, though. When that happened, I was like, oh, my God. He didn't just do that to the fans in South Florida, man. That was tough.
That was very as much as I hate it, I grew up to a Dolphins fan, still I'm a Dolphins fan, and I as much as I don't like what happened, I respect the guy Aaron Rodgers. I expect his attitude. He does funny commercials. He knows he jokes about himself. He just tells the fans like it is. It's not always player speak, coach speak talk with him. And to see him do that, it was a dagger. Yeah, it was. But gosh, that guy's something else.
Oh man! All right, let's continue on here. John Cena,
hardest working talent, maybe of all time. I didn't say the best. Hardest work. The guy gets it. He knows what to do away from the ring and in the ring. He knows what his limits are, and he knows how to act as a WWE superstar away from the ring. He gets it.
The next one, I only got a couple more here. AJ Styles.
Unbelievable in-ring talent.
CM Punk.
Wow. Wow. How do you describe that with 1 or 2 or 3 words?
Yeah, that's
someone who likes to talk. That's hard to do. Here's the thing. No, I got this. All right, this unbelievable talent. He's a really good talent. A really good. He's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. I watched this DVD. Anybody that hasn't seen the CM Punk DVD that WWE did, you got to get that DVD because it's a personal profile piece, but it talks about his life growing up and how he didn't get along with his parents big time. He left home while he was in high school to live with friends, and their family took him in, and he didn't get along with his brother. He didn't get along with mom and dad. I don't know. They didn't really get into everything that went on in the household, but his brother, he always felt like his brother got everything and he got nothing. He didn't do drugs. He didn't do alcohol. He didn't do anything like that. So I was thinking, well, he didn't rebel against the family that way, but maybe he rebelled against the family in another way. Maybe just he wanted to be this rebel without a cause. He wanted things his way, and if it was his way or the highway, and the parents were up for that, so it just didn't work. And so what did he do? He took his ball and went somewhere else. Well, what did he do in WWE when things didn't go his way? He took his ball and went home. I I don't know. He got tired of the business. I just think there's something there that CM, if it's not CM Punk's way, it's very hard for him to continue doing it and to maybe even coming to that compromise. Feel like it has to be CM Punk's way or the highway. Hey, listen, I don't have any insider information. That's just me that's just me as I'm saying it like it is. That's me as an outsider looking in. So, but just listen to interviews from him. Listen to interviews with him afterwards, and how this is a good break for him. He's taking time off. Good for him. Will he go back? Oh, I'll never go back. Well, what's that old WWE say? Never say never. So you never know what's going to happen. But is it really true he's mad because The Rock's main eventing a WrestleMania, and these people that are Brock Lesnar, these people that are coming in and are able to not wrestle all the time? Is he really mad about that? Maybe he is, I guess. But I mean, if they're bringing more eyes to the show and more money to the business and putting more money in your pocket overall, what is the integrity? Is that what it is? It's a show. It's a show. If you don't know what WWE is by now, after you put in way much longer in this business than I will ever know or see, and you don't get it. That's what I mean by John Cena getting it. He understands what WWE's trying to do. So if you don't want to be involved, fine, don't be involved with it. That's of course that's your choice. You don't have to be involved with it. But to come across as like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? They don't know what they're doing. I mean, anyone going into WWE, if you don't know what it's about, fan or not fan, wrestler, non-wrestler, I don't understand. So if you want to take your ball and go home, fine. To me, I think ride out the rest of your contract and then leave.
Yeah, that's what
he didn't do it. He didn't do it that way. And whether he didn't like the direction of his character for WrestleMania, I don't know. I haven't talked to him, so I don't know. That's one of the things I've read a couple of times. I've read that. He didn't like the direction of the company. He didn't like when outsiders were being brought in for these big spots. It takes two to be a main event. That's sometimes three, if you have a three-way, but mainly. It takes two to be a main event, right? Two. Out of everybody that's out there, two. So you're going to have two guys in the main event, and that's it. That's what you're going to have. So when you start talking about how come this one's not being elevated, how come that one's not being elevated, well, what about this one? How could they get rid of that one? Why did that one leave? We're only talking about two spots. So if you've got 10 that you really like, how are you going to get 10 into two spots? And if you have a Rock coming in or Stone Cold Steve Austin, you'd be foolish not to put them into one of those main spots at that time. So I just, like I said, the thing I see with CM Punk, hey, he beats his own drum. I think his lifestyle is great. I think the straight edge is unbelievable. Much credit for him to be able to walk the walk, talk the talk on that. No drugs, no alcohol. I think that's great. But I think this is a guy that's, it's either his way or that's it. No way. And that's what he wants. And you know what? Good for him if that's the case. But, yeah, CM Punk, that's interesting. I kind of think, though, after time, he will be back. Because I look at it this way. Ultimate Warrior came back. Superstar Billy Graham, for those that know, he had his issues with WWF. He came back. And then Bruno Sammartino. Hell froze over. He came back. I think eventually down the road they come back. I think his time being away is good. Hey, he's married to AJ Lee, and she's with the company, and she's doing her thing, and she seems to be enjoying what she's doing. I think it'll be, when it happens, I don't know. Who knows? Whenever CM Punk decides, you know what, maybe I want to give this another go. And then maybe if he wants, he could do a Chris Jericho or a Rob Van Dam and only wrestle part-time and work that deal out. Chris Jericho helped open the door to that. So you don't have to wrestle year-round. So, well, we'll see. But you mentioned CM Punk. Wow. Yep, that's one. That's interesting. You got to watch the DVD. Get the DVD and see about CM Punk and about his life and what he's saying and other people are saying and all. And I'd really like to get an interview with his brother and his parents and see what was happening there. You know, he said his brother stole from him and all, and later on in life and everything. So
they even used that in the storyline, I believe.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, but I believe so.
I think you're right. They did.
Yep.
They did use that and all. So I really like to see what the parents think about all that and just what maybe went down, because I kind of think that whatever happened back then sort of set the path for him and how he is nowadays. Like it does for all of us growing up when we're growing up. Things that happened back in our past sets the trail. So anyway, the CM Punk, yeah, that's really, really, really good talent, really good talker on the mic, and he beats to his own drum.
And I feel much like you that he'll eventually come back. Even Bret Hart, I mean, he buried the hatchet too. So I mean, I think with time, I feel the same way. He'll come back. We had Bruno Sammartino this year, and I mean, Bruno was a little bit before my time, so I didn't know the whole story. I started looking at it, and it made me surprised that he came back. So it was cool that he came back, and he made amends with Vince McMahon. And so that's one thing about wrestling. You're a fan for so long, you can see special moments like that, and it's really, really cool. I got two more. Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to say it makes it very cool for the fans. Of course, old school, new school. Triple H is doing incredible things behind the scenes for WWE with talent. Remember when we read about and we heard about and saw Scott Hall and Jake the Snake Roberts getting help with their drug addictions and alcohol problems, and WWE's paying for all that. They not only pay for them. There's a letter that goes out, I think every year. I hope I'm not. I know at least once a year that goes out to all talent. Kevin Nash said this. I interviewed him several months ago. The letter goes out to all talent, and it says if you're having any issues, problems, you could have worked for the company for a month. You're going to get that letter. If you're having
I think it's quarterly. I think that's
quarterly. The letter goes out quarterly.
So, yeah, I think it's quarterly.
What company does that? What business? Any business? I'm not talking pro wrestling. Forget pro wrestling. Any business, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it. What company or business does that you work for? Think of your jobs, what you work for. What business or company does that? How about they're going to pay for your education? Or if you're a deceased wrestler and you're the spouse of a deceased wrestler who worked for the company, no matter how long, they'll pay for your education if you want to go back to school. Who does that? If you're working there, they may do that for you. But how about after you work there? This is all because of Triple H, some of the things that he's doing. A lot of things at state-of-the-art WWE Performance Center and NXT, the vision of Triple H. We're getting Bruno Sammartino, Ultimate Warrior, Bret Hart back together with the Vince McMahon and WWE, all Triple H, through Triple H. There's incredible things that's going on, and Triple H is someone that is a wrestler. So he sees things from a wrestler's perspective. And I think that's why, too, you're seeing these programs and things happening behind the scenes to benefit and help the wrestlers. Concussions. They take concussions very serious now. And as all sports are starting to do. And that's another thing, that there's a talent in NXT, Corey Graves. Excellent talent, hasn't been working lately. And the reason he's not working is because he had a second concussion. And they don't want to put him back in the ring, and they're taking that very seriously. And maybe he'll get back in the ring, maybe he won't. But he's learning other things behind the scenes, other jobs to do, just in case that this concussion is something happens again and he can't wrestle anymore. And maybe he'll have another career in the business doing something else. And they're doing that with talent. So there's a lot of things that, through Triple H, it's happening behind the scenes as a company that are happening that could be trend-setting, because it's something that other businesses and companies outside of wrestling aren't doing.
I totally get it. They're doing some amazing stuff. We got a few more minutes. I just wanted to get your take. I mean, not only have I been a Dolphins fan all my life, but my dad used to take me to all these Miami Heat games and whatnot. I just wanted to get your quick take on Mr. LeBron James.
The Heat went from a title contender to a playoff hopeful
Yeah.
You look at the top teams. Cleveland, of course, they get their chemistry together. Remember when the Heat started? What were they, 8 and 9 when they first started?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like it was the Chicken Little, and it was the sky is falling. Oh, woe is us. What's going to happen? And then 4 NBA Finals, 2 championships, an incredible run. No problem with him leaving. Yeah, the way he left. Listen, it's like any breakup. It's like any breakup. You break up with your girlfriend, and then you see the girl with another guy somewhere. No, the breakup's never good. And then when you see them with the other guy, that's never good either. So no matter how it went down, he didn't thank us. He didn't. Oh, well, yeah, or whatever. Yeah. With going back to Cleveland, eventually he was going to land there. As a Heat fan too, I blame this all on the San Antonio Spurs. Because if the Heat beat the Spurs for the championship, LeBron would have been back in Miami going for the 4-peat. Because he wasn't going to turn that away. He's even said it now. He's come out and said that.
He said it.
If we ever won, and I knew that when this all went down, then they were like saying, "Oh, he left it." I was like thinking, well, if they would have beat San Antonio, he would have never left. He would have signed another 1 or 2 year deal, and he would have been there at least a year or two, and they would have tried to defend the title, and however long they would have won the title, that's how long he would have stayed. But unfortunately for us, he did not. They did not do that. He left. He's got Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Mike Miller, Shawn Marion. They got a nice core. They're going to be the favorites. And Chicago Bulls are going to be the favorites. With Derrick Rose back, stays healthy. They signed Paul Gasol, and they have a good team as well. And then after that, I don't know. Washington Wizards, Atlanta Hawks, Miami Heat. Indiana suffered greatly. Paul George breaking his leg, and Lance Stevenson, the head case going to, where'd he go? I think he went to Charlotte?
He's Charlotte or the Wizards, one of those two. I think Charlotte.
Charlotte. No. I know it wasn't the Wizards because I saw them the other night, so it wasn't the Wizards, but it must have been Charlotte. But he's gone. So Indiana, Toronto lost Ariza. Ariza signed with Houston, so they didn't get stronger. Indiana got weaker, and I think Miami's going to be in that. I think they're going to be battling for. They get everybody, the pieces here, getting aligning themselves right, the chemistry. I think they could battle for the 3 seed. Wouldn't be surprised if they got the 5 seed. Hopefully they won't go any lower than that. But I just think that him going there, I don't have an issue with it. I wasn't happy when it happened, of course. I didn't like the fact that he went back to Dan Gilbert because Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavaliers, don't like the guy. Everybody was blaming their finger. The world was blaming LeBron James for leaving, pointing the finger at LeBron James, when everybody should have been pointing the finger at Dan Gilbert because he did nothing to help LeBron James when he was in Cleveland. Mo Williams, and if anybody follows basketball, you're going to... If you follow basketball a lot, you'll know who it is. But if not, if you're a casual fan, you don't know who Mo Williams is. Well, that was one of their best signings that Dan Gilbert made for LeBron James. So everybody got mad at LeBron, the decision, fine. So you had everybody mad except Miami. Everybody in Miami was happy. LeBron's here 4 years. Now he leaves, goes back to Dan Gilbert in Cleveland, and now Miami fans are mad, but the world is happy.
Yeah.
That's
what I was trying to explain to everybody. It's mind-boggling to me. I don't understand it.
Everybody should have been mad at Dan Gilbert up in Cleveland instead of mad at LeBron. Well, obviously they're still mad at LeBron, but I just thought Dan Gilbert got a free pass, and then he came out and said those horrific things about LeBron when he left. What owner does that? That's the difference. Mickey Arison, Miami Heat owner, class. Pat Riley, class. And when LeBron left, they were disappointed. But you think they were like saying, "Oh, LeBron, he didn't want to ride it out. He's selfish. He wanted to go back to Cleveland and make all these terrible comments about LeBron, like Dan Gilbert, owner of the Cavs, did." One with LeBron. No, Mickey Arison and Pat Riley took the high road. Class acts, class people, and that's the difference you get between Dan Gilbert, owner of the Cavs, and what kind of ownership group is down here in Miami. Now, of course, people are going to want to play for Cleveland now. But they're not going to want to play because of Dan Gilbert. People want to play for Cleveland because of LeBron James. But that's only going to last as long as it'll last. People want to play in Miami because of Mickey Arison and Pat Riley. And that builds a future. And that's how you have an organization that's been good ever since Pat Pat Riley stepped foot for so long, exactly, and that's what you're going to have. So I feel good. Obviously, I don't feel as good as with LeBron, but I feel okay as a Heat fan. And you know what? If LeBron goes and wins a title with Cleveland, good for him, because he gave. Hey, listen, he did his contract. He wasn't CM Punk. Exactly. He didn't take his ball and leave early. He wrote out his contract with the Heat. He was a free agent. He opted out. That was his right to do that. I have no problems with that. It was a good times. Actually, it's going to be a little more fun watching the Heat because they're always expected to win, and that made those games. That gave me agita watching those games a lot of times because it was always expected for that team to win, even in regular season. Now they're not as expected to win as much, and now Cleveland's going to have the target on their backs, and it's going to be fun for a little while. But then I think they're going to be like sitting there thinking, "Oh, we got to win. We got to make it to the finals. We got to win a title every year, or this is going to be bad." So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
And what I've been telling everybody, in the meantime, LeBron James, you could give Pat Riley a call and come see your championship trophies over here in Miami. We'll let you visit it every once in a while.
For the time being, anyway. It's going to be hard to win the title, but I'll say this. At least this time, Dan Gilbert did put his money where his mouth is, and that's a rude, arrogant, bad mouth, by the way. But they did, and he did sign players for LeBron because he knew if he was going to bring players in. That's why LeBron only signed that one-year deal with an opt-out with Cleveland. He was no fool. LeBron wasn't a fool. He didn't sign a long-term deal. He's going to wait for that 2016 when the contracts are going to go up because the NBA is going to get more money from the TV revenues. So players are going to be able to sign for more. There's going to be more cap room to sign, and also because it was Dan Gilbert. So he's like, hey, if he's going to start this again, you know what? And if he didn't bring players in, I feel this. I feel my opinion. I feel LeBron would have attacked back at Dan Gilbert, and he would have made fans know. He would have made fans know, hey, I'm leaving. I don't want to leave, but it's because of this owner, and he's doing it to me again. Instead of taking the high road like he did when he came to Miami, and he didn't fight back because he knew everybody was mad at how he made his decision and all. This time, he's doing it the right way with Cleveland, and I think Dan Gilbert's going to pony up, and it's going to be for a while that it's going to last because he knows that he'll be the one that's going to be vilified by Cleveland fans if LeBron doesn't stay or something happens. It's going to be Dan Gilbert's fault. It's going to be his head. It's going to be they're going to be burning his Quicken Loans checks that he's the owner that he owns up. They're going to be burning the checks that he makes, and they're going to be boycotting Quicken Loans. Is what's going to happen to Dan Gilbert. So I think Dan they realize that. So it'll be this is going to be a whole different way around this time with LeBron in Cleveland. And all. So and like I said, it'll be interesting to watch.
And this is always my favorite one, and it's the last one, and I love it for this reason. It's you, Jim Varsallone.
Wow, wow is not how I describe myself. You describe it. How do you describe yourself? I know. I got it. Long-winded.
Love it.
You can't. There's no. I could do a 5-minute interview with somebody, but I don't think anyone can do a 5-minute interview with me.
There you go. I love it.
I got a lot to say, whether you want to hear it or not.
Oh no, it's been a pleasure. It's been for me an honor. Back in there, I wanted to get you on, but I had to stop the sites for personal reasons, so I'm back in there, and I really appreciate you taking time from your day to come on our show. It means a lot to me, and I hope that in the future we could get you back on and talk some more sports and wrestling, and it's really been an honor. I really appreciate it, Jim.
No, thank you guys for having me on the show. Main Event Madness, this is really good. You're passionate about what you do, and that's a key for anything in life, any career you go into. Of course, we all have to survive. We all have to make money. But if you're going to be passionate, you're going to enjoy your work, and that's really a key to life, I think. All these years I find that. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy youth sports. I enjoy editing, covering, all the things I've done in the years, and I think when you look back and say, how much, if you're going to look back and say, how much money did you make? Well, yeah, I didn't make a lot of money, but you know what? But I enjoy my life. and that's a key for anybody. And you gotta do that when you're looking at a career. And obviously, if you have a family and you have to make money and support your family, for your family, that's a whole different road to go down. So that's different, and you got to do things sometimes and do jobs you may not want to do for that reason, for survival and for what's best for your kids and your wife and all. But if you can find something where you really enjoy doing it, everything else will fall into place, and you'll be a better person and a happier person, I think. And it makes life a lot more livable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have my wife and my kids. I got a son on the way, and now I got to go pick up my daughter from school. But yeah, I mean, this is something I hope that John and I can keep on pushing for. And let me tell you, in this short year we got together, it's been great. We went on Spreaker.com. We surpassed 70,000 listens, a lot sooner than we expected. So we're excited about it. And right now it's a strong hobby, and hopefully it gets to more. And if not, we're just going to enjoy doing this. We love doing it, and I love that you were on the show. It really means a lot, Jim. So thank you.
No, thank you guys for having me on the show and letting me talk and just give some experience and what I've been through and some people I've spoken with. And it's all good. And just keep out there on social media. Keep plugging away on social media too, because the more interaction you can have with people, the more you'll be able to grow what you're doing. So that's a good thing.
All right, sounds good. And hopefully I can catch you on a couple of these South Florida events with Ronan, and I'll email you to see if you're in the area.
Yeah, do that, please, anytime and all. And anytime you want me on the show, just let me know. Give me an email, send me an email and all. That would be really good. I enjoyed it.
All right, awesome, Jim. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Great weekend. All right, we'll talk again.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care, Jim. Bye.
All right, guys, that was our interview with Jim Varsallone of the Miami Herald. Thanks for joining us here at Main Event Madness. We'll be back here next week. Hopefully, full strength, normal show, 2-hour show of us arguing, some banter, some other stuff, I want to say we have an interview lined up for next week. I'm not sure who it is. Follow me, John, MEM Radio on Twitter, at Me Madness, M-E Madness. He loves his Twitter handle. I don't really know why, but no, I'm just joking with him. Follow us on Twitter, maineventmadness.com. We'll post an update this weekend. I apologize for not knowing this in advance. Like Al said before we got into the interview, we got a lot of big shows, a lot of big interviews coming up. We hope you guys could stick around. The holidays are coming up, and aren't going to have as much free time. We're going to be with their families more. But please, Spreaker.com, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio. Any way you can support the podcast and keep listening to the podcast, and maybe share it with your family or share it with your friends. Greatly appreciate it. But, that's going to do it here for Main Event Madness, guys. We are out. We'll be back probably next Wednesday, normal time, 11 to 1. Take it easy, guys. Have a great rest of your week, great weekend. God willing, we'll see you back here next week. Take it easy, guys.
Looking for more than your average wrestling website? Looking for the fastest growing wrestling news site on the internet today? With quality news, results, and more. Wrestling News Report has everything you'd want in a wrestling website. Al Merriman has you covered with the latest and biggest stories of the day from all around the world of pro wrestling. Check them out today, WrestlingNewsReport.com. So you're cruising around the internet looking for some entertainment. What if I told you there's a hard-hitting, fresh, and opinionated podcast out there covering everything from WWE and TNA to the NFL, the NBA, and MLB? Well, that's reality. Main Event Madness is here. Don't miss us every week on MainEventMadness.com as well as on TuneIn Radio and Stitcher.com. Main Event Madness. Our wrestling, your sports, simply madness. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Looking for quality wrestling news with an international flair? Looking for results and news from around the world? Look no further than Wrestling-News.net. Wayne Daly and his crew have you covered from top to bottom, from WWE to TNA to the top independent companies from around the world. Check them out, Wrestling-News.net. Thank you so much for joining us. Miss a part or all of today's show? No problem. Head over to maineventmadness.com where you'll find today's show as well as every show in our history. So once again, for all of us here at Main Event Madness, I'm John Curry. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back here next time. Have a good one, everybody. So long.
Welcome to the panic room.